Welcome to.
Sorry. Also, I'm not.
Welcome to Backpacker Radio, presented by The Trek, brought to you by OnX Backcountry. I'm your co-host, Zach Badger Davis, and sitting to my 12 o'clock is...
Hi, I'm Juliana Chaunce, a.k.a. Chaunce.
Chaunce, you're in charge of the next segment.
Yes, question of the day. This is a four-parter, so there are going to be four questions to it. First question, do you believe in ghosts?
No.
Job?
I haven't even been introduced yet, so I don't think
Job is here.
He doesn't exist until we say his name.
Hi,
it's
I'm
like
Jabba,
Beetlejuice.
a.k.a. the real hiking Viking, a.k.a. Thomas Gathman, a.k.a. Gat, a.k.a. G, a.k.a. How do you say a.k.a. every single time, like without like messing it up? I don't know. I feel like I would like stumble over my a.k.a. some
You
point.
gotta do like a Daenerys Targaryen thing where you're like, I'm Thomas Gathman.
Do you ever get
The
tired
real
of
hiking
saying
Viking.
a.k.a. Chaunce?
No.
Okay.
It's only like once.
But she only has one AKA. You
Yeah.
have many.
Do you
Okay,
believe in
then.
You
ghosts?
were built on AKAs.
Hey, okay. All right. So, you're at the question again, please.
Do you believe in ghosts?
Is ghosts like the general term for anything that's other like
Just the traditional sense of a ghost.
Yeah,
When
it's
someone
like
says, like, I
ghosts.
saw a dish fly across the room because a ghost threw it.
because people are saying that a lot?
Oh, I know. So this is actually, let me add a little context in my answer. I personally do not believe in ghosts. However, there are people who I don't believe are crazy who have said they've witnessed ghosts. So that gives me pause, but my answer is still no.
I believe in ghosts.
Okay. Second question.
Are you going to answer the question?
No.
Okay.
You have to. I demand
This is,
it.
I mean, question
Sure.
of the...
I'll say sure.
No, not sure. Do you or don't you?
Yes.
Oh, this is bullshit.
Do you believe in aliens? Second question.
Yes.
100%.
Okay. This is becoming Jabba's questions because he answered yes to both. If you believe in both, do you think that aliens believe in ghosts?
Yes.
Okay.
By the way, that's a very large and wide sweeping statement. Like all aliens?
Well,
All of them?
Jabba's thesis was actually on this very question.
Like
Do aliens believe in
we
ghosts?
are humans. That's one species on one planet, and we're saying like all aliens. The potentiality for there being thousands of species of higher intelligence beings. They all believe in ghosts. I can't say yes to that, but I believe some might. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
And by the way, not all humans believe in them. So to say all aliens believe, we're being fucking
That's a good
ridiculous
point.
here,
That's a good
True.
point. So, like, what do humans believe?
right?
okay, but now
like
that
if aliens were like, do humans believe in ghosts?
Yeah.
You know, would we be like, oh, well, kinda?
some do.
Some? So
Although-
not all humans.
Okay, so
Do
some aliens
do
believe in
aliens
ghosts.
think that we're human, or do they think that we're aliens?
Probably
Well, we're aliens. But if we told them we're humans, they'd be like, oh, do humans believe in aliens?
Yeah.
Or I mean ghosts. Or us. Hey, do you believe
Do you
in
believe
us?
in us?
Wait, so if we believe that aliens exist and we are aliens by that definition, does that just mean that
I believe in myself.
Yeah, exactly. Ipso facto.
Yeah.
Final question to the question of the day. Based on all the before stuff, do you think that there are alien ghosts?
I'd have to, by believing in both. Would have to believe that alien ghosts exist.
Yeah. I mean, to me, an
I
alien...
never really thought about it, but I'm just gonna say, from the hip, yeah.
Neat. Cool.
Yeah.
Neat. Right.
That's my question of the day.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, if you ever want to ask me if I've ever had any ghost experience while backpacking, that would be a more relevant question to this podcast, I would say.
Hey, Jabba.
Go on, tell your story.
Roger, but actor didn't commit suicide. He was murdered. On this last hike, the Hayduke, which I think is technically why I'm here, right?
Yeah.
Talk about the
We'll
Hayduke
figure it
a little
out.
bit.
We'll figure
a
it
little
out.
bit.
We'll
A
figure it
little
out.
bit. So, if you've ever has anyone here ever heard of the confluence of the Little Colorado at where it meets the Colorado River? Does anybody know anything about that space?
No.
No.
So it's in the Grand Canyon, naturally, and it's I think 3 different native tribes believe that area to be the birthplace of their tribes. Okay, like the spiritual birthplace or the cosmic birthplace. How I actually not qualified enough to talk about that in that vein. So I won't continue to try and legitimize it. But so there was a guy, and I'm not gonna get too particular with this, but there was a guy in the past, maybe decades ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago, that did raft or like kayak the entire the length of Little Colorado. And while it is legal to do that, I think technically, and don't quote me on that either, it's very frowned upon within the Navajo Nation at large community because that's such sacred territory to them. And if you've never seen pictures, the Little Colorado looks like Arctic glacier, whatever Gatorade flavor, like the blue, like that blue glacial water. It looks like that. So it's stunning and it looks magical. So this dude paddled the whole thing, and he said when he was going through this particular segment, he felt like spirits like stopping him, like putting, like while he's paddling rafting, putting their hands on him and to try and like deter him from continuing.
Damn.
Yeah, and he knew when he started this that this was something that, like, hey, there's like Navajo spirits here, and he was like, they were wigged the F out. So I was told that story on the day that I was at the confluence of the Little Colorado. And you can't camp there, so you have to like hike down a couple of like a mile or so to like you're still in like view of the confluence, but you're not supposed to like camp close enough to it because you don't want impact or the sacred place to be just over inundated with campers. So, but while we were there is literally only like a couple of ways you can get to that point in the Grand Canyon. One is to raft there. Two would be to do what we did, was hike there and hitchhike across the river, on a raft to be where we were. And the other is to literally hike the trail that we were going to be hiking along the Colorado on the Beamer Trail. And we had been there for hours. There was nobody around. There was no rafters are rafting at night. It's nighttime. We were setting up camp. Me and these two other girls I was on the Hayduke with, and we saw lights coming from the confluence. Like, there was literally no way anyone was over there. And so we're like in our...
How do you know?
How do we know no one was there?
Yeah.
Because there was nobody there the next day either. Nobody. Nobody passed us one way or the other. There's no trail to get you there. There was no boaters at all in any way. And there's no like trail...
I don't want to say devil's advocate, but possibility. What if someone flew a drone in there?
Nope. No.
You could hear a drone.
It was a headlamp. It was like as bright as a headlamp. I can't tell you that it was a headlamp, but that's how bright it was. Drones aren't making that kind of light.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
So was it moving around like a flashlight?
Yeah, but it was impossible that it was another human being. It literally impossible, especially with where it was coming from.
Wait, so is this a vote for ghosts or aliens? Because you said ghosts.
I would say ghosts.
That's it. That sounds like alien activity to me.
It wasn't in the sky. It was on the ground.
Yeah, but aliens move.
Aliens move.
Yeah.
Was it an alien ghost? I don't know.
Okay.
No, I'm thinking Navajo spirit.
Yeah.
That's where our heads were.
One light or multiple lights?
One, like, it was emanating from what we perceived to be one source of light. And I'm not the only one that saw it. At first, it was like, what the hell is that light? And then the other two were like, what light? Like, no one's over there.
Yeah.
And then the other person was like, oh my gosh, I see it too. And we were all like, there's no way anyone can be over there.
Were any substances consumed?
Come on, dude.
I mean, follow-up question. Were any substances consumed on your trip at all?
Substances were consumed by me. But the other person was completely sober.
Yeah.
And saw it.
Okay.
Did any part of you want to go check it out?
No, too lazy. Literally too tired. We, just
ghosts
exhausted.
over there. Let's go to bed.
Ghosts make me so sleepy.
It was weird. We still are perplexed by it.
Yeah, that's a good story. We should just flow into the interview, but we do have a couple things we got to touch on here real quick. Reminders of any kind, yes. If you know anyone that you'd like to hear in the show, especially if they're traveling through Colorado, especially the foothills, do hit us up, podcast at thetrek.co, DM us on Instagram, snail mail to 4569 Lane. I don't know. You guys know how to find us. But, yeah, let us know if there's anyone traveling through the state that should be on the show. And we do have a new segment called Trivia Without an Agenda. And the question to this one is, This one's for you, Chaunce.
Okay.
Do you know which state produces the most cheese?
Gee, I wonder. If I had to take a guess, I would guess Wisconsin.
Yeah, it is Wisconsin. They led the nation in cheese production in 2019 with 3.36 billion pounds. A billion.
Wow.
Yeah, and by the way, this follows up nicely to the fact that we are headed to the state of Wisconsin in the month of October. Between the dates of October 10th and 17th, we're going to be doing a full tour along the Ice Age Trail. We're going to do some hiking. We're going to do a hiker meetup. We're going to go to a football game. We're going to do a lot of fun stuff. We would love to hang out with our Midwest friends. Chaunce, what do you have to add to that?
Yeah, tell us where you live when you're coming, if you can come, if you think there's like anywhere specific that we should do a meetup that makes sense. Emphasis on makes sense. We're not coming to like some small little town in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
Yeah, just give us your input. Anything that helps us shape the trip.
We're getting closer to having some even more specifics. It won't be too long before we have like an official itinerary printed out so you guys can come bother us, hang out with us when we're out there. But we're very excited, and we want to hear from you guys what we should add on to our trip, because we did leave a little bit of wiggle room, and you guys can Ouija board us in the
I would
correct
assume
direction.
you guys would want to go on like a cheese factory tour.
Yeah,
Oh.
cheese will be involved. There'll be fish fries. There'll be taverns. There'll be
Yes.
breweries. It'll be mostly be us getting fat.
I mean,
Fatter.
Well, we're going to do a thing where we weigh in at the beginning and the end, and whoever gains the most weight wins.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm gonna develop an eating disorder before we go, just so I can.
That's
get
smart.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah, it always is.
Let your doctor know.
Dr. Dre. Okay.
I love the pause.
Yeah.
Am I going to say
Slow
Dr.
brain.
Dre? I'm going to say Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre.
Don't say Dr. Dre. Don't say Dr. Dre. Sleeping with your. Okay. Let's get right to it. We're already doing it, I think. This is an interview with our good bud, Jabba, a.k.a. Tom, a.k.a. the real hiking Viking, a.k.a. that guy who's just always here, a.k.a. Okay, so we've already kind of done the lead up to this. I think we talked about this on a podcast before. What was the last? Oh, it was episode 100. We talked
Yeah.
about the Hayduke a little bit then. Okay, so I guess just fill us in. Give us the background to the inspiration to getting on the Hayduke for people that didn't listen to episode 100.
Well, I mean, it was all about my buddy Lieutenant Cuckoo and I have been trying to hike it for a couple years. We ran out of time effectively a couple years ago in 2019 when I came back from Jordan. I only had 4 weeks to hold on. There's one. That was one good TikTok, right? Okay. So as I was saying,
we're on TikTok.
and I was rudely interrupted, and we're on TikTok. Speaking of TikTok, I'm wasting time. So I didn't get a chance to hike the whole route
smell
2
that
years
one.
ago. Yeah, it smells like what? What does it smell like? So some sausage and some eggs and some zucchini and spinach.
If there's like a salad inside of a dead guy's body,
That's it. That's actually exactly what that
the
is.
salad bowl is a carcass.
Oh my God, we suck at this. Okay, and by we I mean certainly me. Okay, so yeah, didn't get to do it 2 years ago. Decided that I was going to be all hands on deck for trying to complete that sucker this year. And I made it to mile 660. Basically, and then had to pull the plug for heat purposes. But yeah, it was a great time. I was able to be as healthy as I ever imagined I could be for this, given the knee situation over the last couple seasons. And Cuckoo Bird unfortunately got injured a little bit through, so he wasn't able to complete with me. I think he has intentions of completing it still in the future, because it's just one of those hikes where you're like, I want to experience these places, and I mean, it's an incredible hike. Honestly, it was I have never felt quite as immersed in a hike as I have with this one this time around.
Yeah. You're very dark right now. As
Thank you.
Leah quickly pointed out.
Yeah.
So let's do some of the fast facts about the Hayduke. The Hayduke Trail, which is kind of a misnomer.
Yeah, it's just called that because it's easier to get across, but the Hayduke route is more, I would say, on point and on brand for what this is. I'll be honest with you. The things that I thought were going to be hard about this wasn't as physically demanding as I thought it would be, in the sense that, like, There's not a ton of elevation gain and loss until you get to the Grand Canyon, of course. But you're really just dealing with the navigational issues, and you're dealing with the water issues. And they've been in a 2-year drought out there, so it was very. That was the biggest logistical concern, was carrying a absolute fuck ton of water, and that was a big concern to me. Like, oh my God, am I going to be able to carry the amount of water that I need to with the knee? But it ended up being totally fine in that front. It's just like, it's just hard. It's just hard to ration water in those ways, and I don't like to ration water. And like, this is the ultimate hike for needing to ration water. You coming from the thru hiker world, where we're like, oh, how many liters can I get away with till the next source, where you're like, trying to like keep it as light as possible so you can pull 30, 35 miles a day or whatever. This is not the hike to be playing games like that at all. I learned that early on too, because most people are hiking this in the spring, I would say, and early on you're not acclimated to that heat. You're not acclimated to skimping on water like that, and it took me weeks till I was able to like feel more comfortable with the amount of water that I was carrying in between like 30 miles at a time. You're carrying 11 liters of water. So yeah, it's you got to be careful coming off the couch or coming out of winter thinking you're going to be able to hike 10 miles on a liter of water. This is simply not the case.
Yeah.
So before we jump too far into it, how long was it in miles for you? Because I know it changes. Where did it start? Where did it finish?
So I started in Moab. Technically I started in Arches National Park, and there's a couple of different starting points that are all relatively in the similar area. But we started in the Devil's Garden, I think is what it's called, over in Arches National Park, which actually tacked on, I think, 6 total miles to that section. So I think it was a 25 mile hike for us to get to Moab from Arches, which is, sadly actually where Cuckoo's ankle and foot injury began to rear its head right away on day one, which sucks because the same thing happened to him. Similar thing happened to him on his first day hiking the Hayduke in 2019. Day one, he injured his ankle. But anyways.
Is that, I do want to get more of the fast facts, but just quickly, is that due to bad luck? Is that due to the environment?
I think it's due to complete bad luck, unfortunately. Like, I mean, maybe there were some things he could have done to mitigate with training on the front end, but like, I think still, he was healthy enough to take on those physical challenges without dealing with injury. And I just think that like bad luck occurred, essentially. And that could have happened to me on day one, but, but right away, if people out there don't know too much about the Hayduke route, it's highly encouraged, similar to the Continental Divide Trail in the sense that, it's sort of a choose your own adventure kind of hike. There's a lot of alternate routes that you can take on the CDT, and they're encouraged. And much so is the case on the Hayduke route, but a lot more of it is possible in terms of choosing your own adventure. A lot more options are out there, a lot more alternates. And one alternate that I discovered right before we started hiking, this is actually hysterical because Cuckoo Bird and I spent like a few days driving around southern Utah and northern Arizona, caching food and water. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it means going out and bearing food and water in places where we can't access food and water via hitch or whatever the case may be. There's no water sources on the route nearby. So very, very critical to like making things easier on yourself is being able to cache. So anyways, we cached food at the Needles Outpost and the Height Marina for our second and third caches. And then those are cache points that are on the actual main route, which was our intent to do the main route right out of the gate. But after we did the caches and in the couple of days leading up to starting the route, I threw a curveball and I was like, yo, Cuckoo. I was like, what if we paddle the Colorado River out of Moab? And we were like, he's like, oh, that sounds cool. So what we essentially did was we rented a canoe from a place in Moab that they would drop us off at what's called Potash Bottom. I think it's what it's called, Potash Bottom. And it's where like all the major rafting companies put in. And then you can paddle 52 miles of the Colorado down just past the confluence of the Green River and right before you start to get into some serious rapids. It's all like basically flat water the whole way. So we paddled 52 miles, but there was a segment from Moab to Potash. It's like 16 or 18 miles that we would have had to, cover the distance of some way, whether it's hiking or whatever. We decided to rent bikes from Moab, and we pedaled all the way from Potash back into Moab. It was perfect. It was great. So we had a connected route. But so what that did was it made us do this other backpacking alternate out of the Colorado River Canyon there, up through Canyonlands, the Maze area. Has anyone here ever heard of the Maze? Mm-hmm. So we hiked clean through the Maze all the way to Poison Spring Canyon, which is where we then linked back up with the main route. But that made us bypass 2 of our caches.
Oh shit!
So we had to go.
Are they still there?
No, we got them. So it was a very, very interesting way of how we had to do it. This route was amazing right out of the gate because we were standing on the road hitchhiking up to either Hanksville or hitchhiking down to Height to go get our cache. One way is where we had a motel. The other way is where we had our cache, but we needed to go to both places. And that's like not easy to do when you're in the middle of literal nowhere, and each direction we had to hitchhike to was over an hour each direction. So we're like, well, you stand on that side of the road, I'll stand on this side of the road. We'll both try hitchhiking each way, and we'll let the gods decide, where we go first, and we'll figure out the rest later, because hitchhiking down to Height and then hitchhiking back up to Hanksville was just this wild task that we're just like, oh God, this kind of sucks. We did this to ourselves, but it was worth it because paddling the Colorado was awesome. It was beautiful. And so was the maze. It was great. And getting to the maze is extremely difficult to do if you're just like, oh, I want to drive there. Those roads to get there are gnarly. Mm-hmm. You really got to have a good 4-wheel drive vehicle. So, as the gods allowed it, we got a ride to Hanksville.
How long did it take?
I think we were hitchhiking for like 30 or 45 minutes. It wasn't that bad.
That's fast. Yeah.
No, it was really good. So we got there and we immediately went to, I think it's called a Slick Rock Cafe or something like that. And we were sat down to have a meal, and we were like on route for a week before we got there, I believe. So it was like, we're smelling bad. We were dirty. This was our first town stop. We wanted meals. You know how that feels. That feels to want to eat town food and kind of recharge the battery. And so our waiter was this. I can't even remember his name now. What a dick I am. But he was the man. He was like a 25-year retired Chicago cop. Yeah. And Salt Lake City cop. I apologize. And we didn't know that at the time, but he just like came up to us. He's like, "You guys need anything? Do you guys need a car to get around town to like get your supplies or anything like that?" And we were like, "Oh no, we're good." Like, well, But then we were sitting there thinking like, "Well, we have to go pick up that cache that's an hour and a half away." So when he came back over, we're like, "Hey, actually," the dude didn't know us, didn't ask for our phone numbers, didn't ask for our names or anything. He just gave us the keys to his Toyota Sequoia and let us drive an hour and a half one direction and an hour and a half
pre-shower too.
Oh yeah, we couldn't even
smell like shit.
We couldn't even check it. Yeah, exactly. We couldn't even check into we rented a cabin like in the RV park right next door, and in fact his wife was like the manager of the place next door. So it just was like wild, man, the way it worked out. So I don't remember what the question was, but that's
how long is the trail?
So, well, you said where did it start, and I just wanted to clarify that we didn't do the main route out of the gate. So, and
this is why we love having Jabba on the show.
Well, who cares? You don't pay me for nothing or at all. It's the entire route. If you just stick to the main route only, do no alternates, it's 811 miles. So, but I think we shaved like 30 miles or 20 miles or 18. I actually don't recall what it saves, but it saves hiking, obviously. And it saves one of the harder segments of the trail, which is Dark Canyon. And someday I'll go back and do that. But I felt like it was cool to have a multi-layered hike, and it was a cool way to break up the monotony of the future of the hike. Was like, okay, instead of like dealing with all those off-trail elements right out of the gate, we get a little fun opening experience. So we didn't really feel like we started hiking the route until, even though we did a 24-mile day in Arches, we really didn't feel like we started hiking till we got out of the boats. after 52 miles of paddling. Yeah.
Do you have an idea of how many miles that would have been had you stayed on like the more traditional route?
I'd have to pull up the data book, and I'm not going to do that right now.
Yeah, no worries.
Which I have it with me, but I'm not going to do that right
Yeah.
now and bore everybody.
So to further Chaunce's question, give us a sense of the route from there. And I know obviously there's branches and where it ends. I guess just more of an overview of the...
Yeah, sure. So it starts in Arches, goes through all of Arches National Park. It cuts through Canyonlands in the Needles District. Again, this is the main route. And then it cuts over to through Poison Spring, and then it goes up and over the Henry Mountains, which is the highest point on the route at 10,600 feet. There's still snow up there, so it's kind of interesting little change of pace for temperatures and like this vegetation is totally different. But then you drop immediately back down into the Capitol Reef National Park, and then from Capitol Reef National Park you go into the Escalante River Canyon, and then you go into Coyote Gulch, which is all like part of like Grand Staircase, and you cut into the Escalante area. Escalante or Escalante or Escalante. There's 1,000 different ways you can pronounce the word. And then from there, you cut through just like barren canyons between Hole in the Rock Road, which is you access right out of Escalante. And then you cut over towards the Paria River and Round Valley Canyon area. And then up to Bryce Canyon National Park. And then from Bryce Canyon National Park, you go due south down into Buckskin Gulch, which is a stunning slot canyon. And then Buckskin, you veer off of Buckskin, and you can be in the wave area, which is directly beside the northern terminus of the Arizona Trail, which we hike right through. And we did get a permit for the wave, which was amazing, stunning area. And then from there, you
sent pictures from there. It looks like
wild.
it's another planet.
It does, and we had it all to ourselves because I'll get into that later. But we from there you go up to the Kaibab Plateau before you drop into the Grand Canyon, and you do about 150 miles in the Grand Canyon. I was only able to do just shy of like 90. I want to say like 95 miles of the Grand Canyon. So I still have a segment to do in the Grand Canyon, which is like the western part, which like no one goes to. And then from there, you cross the barren sage flats of the Kaibab area, and between there and Zion, and you finish in Zion.
Fuck yeah!
So it's So we have I have whatever the girls I was hiking with that I met on the route. Chaunce and Swept Away, not a Chance and Swept Away. We had about 150 miles left.
Talk a little bit about the social component of your hike. Obviously, there's nothing to speak of for the social dynamics of the Hayduke, because if you're going out there looking for people, you're going to be disappointed, I imagine.
Well, so particularly, we, Cuckoo Bird and I, started exceptionally late, I would say, for... and the reason why you don't start as late as we did reared its ugly head when we got to the Grand Canyon, because I came off the Grand Canyon due to excessive heat and excessive heat warnings from the national park. And so we can talk a little bit more about that later. But as far as the social component of this, I don't know how many people hike this route every year. This probably was the biggest year for it, as that kind of is happening to all these trails and routes every year. Kind of more and more people find out about it and learn about it and get out there and try it. But I only came across 2 other people through hiking the route while actually on the route. So and that was not a Chance and Swept Away. 2 girls from Bellingham, Washington, that also started late, because starting that late, you end up not seeing anybody. The only other hiker I came across was a guy. I can't think of his trail name at this point. Why? I don't know why, but his name is Ken Klatt, and he wasn't able to through hike the whole thing. He did the entire Arizona Trail apparently beforehand, and then did the Hayduke except for the Arizona parts, which is essentially the Grand Canyon, but because he had something he had to get to. But we came across him at the Hite Marina when we drove that guy's car down to the Hite Marina to pick up our cash. And he was just sitting in there in the general store. Like, I was like, oh, this guy's definitely a thru hiker. And we had like some leftovers from breakfast at the Slick Rock, and I gave him like cornbread and like like cinnamon butter, and he's just like, holy shit, this is amazing. What the hell is this trail name? Drive me nuts. Stamps. That's his trail name. Stamps.
Did you know that the two ladies were behind you on trail, or was that just pure serendipity?
No, I didn't know they were even on. I knew the one before. Apparently, actually, you and I met this other girl, Swept Away. I like briefly when we did our yo-yo of the Canadian border from Harts Pass.
Oh.
On our way back south from the border, we passed this girl, and apparently so people were like, oh my gosh, that's Badger and the Hiking Viking. She's like, who the fuck are those dudes? Like, and we were just like hiking our tits off to try and go catch our buddy that was leaving with our food and our ice axes.
Yeah.
Different story. But Not a Chance has been hiking since like 2006. She's done a fuckload of miles, and she has done the PCT like 4 times. And she's connected in the community. I was really fortunate to run into these girls basically as Cuckoo Bird was making the decision to get off the trail.
Yeah.
The first day that I was hiking alone, these girls hiked up.
Would you have stayed on by yourself?
Oh yeah, I was. That was the intent. I was like, I reassessed and changed gears mentally and was like, all right, this is now a solo adventure. I've done a ton of solo hiking and I've done off trail solo hiking before on the Sierra High Route and some other hikes as well. This was, I don't think I'd done any solo backpacking in a couple of years at this point, really.
Yeah.
Nothing major anyways.
How challenging is the navigation?
It can be very challenging at times. It's not that challenging to me, just because I'm so comfortable with it and I'm very good at finding the right way, like use trails and like you can just I don't even know how to put it. I just can see it.
Mm-hmm.
I can just see where either other people have gone because it just looks that way, or just like use trails exist because people like the terrain naturally takes you places.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can get you in trouble, obviously, but like I feel like I always choose correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And there's times where I don't, but like never to the extent where it gets me in a jam too much. But yeah, I'd say for the inexperienced, it can be very difficult at times.
So like when we did the Winds or the Fifner, obviously we had Skirka's guides, which they don't tell you step for step what to do, but they fill in pieces. It's like a puzzle, and you're filling in the pieces with the information it gives.
Yeah, that's how Skirka prefers to give his information to people. The girls that were using paper maps from a guy named Lee, and I don't know who that is, but they had different data than I had.
So that's my question is, were you relying solely, I know obviously you had maps with you, but were you relying on GPS, or is there like a guide that's giving you Skirka-like information?
I'm using Skirka's data book and Skirka's like maps. So and his maps are not ultra precise in terms of where he wants you to go. And like you said, you're filling in the pieces. So it's more like connect the dots or like, but the dots are further apart.
Does it have the description part like his other guides?
It's not like for example, if you've done the Sierra High Route and you've read Steve Roper's guidebook about the Sierra High Route, it's like and I guess on the Wind River High Route too, I think there's some more like specific directions.
Yeah, there's like chapters.
Yeah, this was not that at all. This is more like you are figuring out the proper way, more so than any physical written description is explaining it to you. Like in Steve Roper's book on the Sierra High Route, he's very like precise about. He's like, when you reach 11,400 feet, follow this bench until you see a grass slope. Follow the grass slope up, the ramp or whatever. This is not that at all. At least for the data that I had.
Yeah.
All right, that's it.
No, the other question I had was I lost it, so I'm going to go with the next one on my list. But
well, hold on. To finish answering the question before.
Wait. I got it. Were you carrying maps?
Yeah.
And okay, so no. by the way, you can be honest and say that's not something that you endorse.
I don't endorse that at all.
Why don't you endorse that?
Because it's stupid. If your phone breaks, dies, let's put it this way. Not a Chance was also rafted or paddled the river. She lost her phone on day one. So she had to rely on her paper maps for sure from that point on, which she's totally fine with doing. And so would I be if I had paper maps and had that happen to me, which I didn't.
Yeah.
And by the way, I broke my phone on day one of the Hayduke, but I was carrying paper maps at the time.
Yes.
But I still had to get a phone to because I'm doing social media and all that kind of stuff, so I rely on a phone for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Chaunce doesn't give a shit. She was just like, okay, I'm going paper maps. But her partner swept away also had, and I mean hiking partner, they're not partners. Her hiking partner had the GPS track on her phone on, I believe, on Gaia. So I don't endorse not carrying maps. I typically do carry maps, but
I thought you were saying you don't endorse maps.
no, I don't
That's
endorse.
why I was
I don't
like,
endorse
why?
not carrying maps.
He said he does carry maps, and then he winked at me, and then that's why I went.
And then he called me out like a dick.
Well, I'm not trying to get you in trouble.
You just did.
Yeah, but I mean,
You did it anyways.
I honestly think I think that honesty is the best policy because
Not all the time.
Okay, we'll scratch that from the record.
Well, to answer your other question about these other girls that I met on the route, they started on the 18th of April. I started on the 23rd of April. They did the same paddle alternate that we did to start, only they used literal glorified pool toys to paddle down. Like we're talking like blow up like rafts. And other people have done this too. It's not just
what
them.
class of the rapids?
There's no rapids.
Okay.
It's all flat water. But the problem is that we had significant headwinds every single day on the river, and a canoe can, cut through that quite easily compared to a blow up toy that you're sitting in with your backpack and you have no room and it's like uncomfortable and the winds can push that thing over, and it did for them. For her, it flipped her over. But so what took Cuckoo and I a day and a half to paddle took these girls like 4.5 days.
Oh wow!
And when they were pulling their rafts out of the water, that's when we caught up to their pace and we actually passed them. We made it to Hanksville before they did, but we took 2 zeros because Cuckoo's foot needed a little break, and frankly I wanted a little break too. And then on our second 0, they came into town and we at least like said hey, and then they got out of town before us, and then we got caught up to them in the Henry Mountains and kind of like leapfrogged with them a little bit until Cuckoo Bird got off the trail, and then those girls were kind of we got on a similar plan, even though we didn't know we were going to be together till the end. At that point in time, I think I was just under the impression that I was going to see them here or there, but would just do my own thing, and it turned out we kind of became a pretty tight-knit family, which was a pleasant surprise, an unexpected surprise, and we had a really, really awesome and fun dynamic on the trail, and man, I wouldn't have changed it for the world in that sense. It was great.
Tell me about the terrain itself. Like, how fast are you moving? So the winds is slow as hell. Like, they're only the times that you're moving faster is when you're on trail. That's another question I have for you. But like when you're in the canyon valleys, how quickly are you able to?
You're able to hike pretty easily in the sense of like continuing forward progress, but you're hiking in like sand. And when your pack is full of water and food and it's like slow going. It's like, and you're constantly having to like empty the sand out of your shoes. Oh my God, you guys, all these beers. Anyway, so it's not as fast as you would like. And then you're also typically those canyons and you're in them are like they're by the time it's like 10, 11 o'clock, the heat is really picking up, and by like 1 or 2, it's getting like excruciatingly hot. So you have to take long siestas if you're not acclimated to hiking through those temperatures, which typically no one is. It gets to be like high 90s, low hundreds, sometimes high 100s, and even into the 110s. It's just like all the rock around you is baking, and it's super conducting off like towards you off the walls of all those rocks, and it's just like you got to find shade for a couple hours and just not, because the more you hike in that heat, the more water you like need. Actually need. So it's like not efficient to be hiking through that heat at all when you're just burning through the water that you can't replenish as fast as you can, consume it because it's not around.
Yeah, I want to talk more about the water, because you mentioned 11 liters and you mentioned that 1 liter for 10 miles isn't going to cut it out here.
Oh, never.
So,
never.
Like, what is the water situation and how fast are you going through it?
I mean, sometimes you're not seeing water more than once in a 24-hour period or more. There were some times where we had to collect water and like be strategic about if we're gonna cook there, so we're not using our drinking water out of our packs later. Sometimes you're not able to see water for an entire full day, so you're like, oh, I need water for camp, I need water for tomorrow, and then I need water for camp tomorrow night because I'm not gonna see water until the following morning, and it's just like this fucking constant conundrum of how do I conserve my need for water? How do I conserve my using of water? And you're just playing this like logistical head game with yourself at all times. At least, some people hike this start a month earlier, so I can only speak to the time frames of which I'm hiking in. But with that 2-year drought, and starting late, you really compound the water conundrum.
What was your start date?
April 23rd.
If you could redo it, and assuming everything played in your favor, what would your ideal start date be?
I guess, like 3 weeks prior.
It's the beginning of April.
Yeah. April 1st would be great, probably. Yeah. Now, it's interesting because I hiked the Arizona Trail before. I started at April 1st and I finished May 5th, and that's 800 miles. But this is different. This is like it's a different, just because you're in that similar region. It's just not the same trail situation because you work harder when you're off trail. You just do. You work a lot harder, and you're not climbing mountains that have the Arizona Trail climbs mountains often. So you're getting out of the heat of these canyons a lot. Even though it can be hot on the mountain, you still see shade more. You still run into springs more. It's just a totally different beast. And like I said, carrying 11 liters of water when you're off trail, you're working extra hard. You need that water more than you would if you're hiking on trail.
Something interesting that I learned recently, I think we've always known that when you're cognitively engaged in a hike, like the way that the Hayduke is, it is more tiring. But when you're using your brain, it actually uses more energy than any other part of your
Absolutely.
body. In a given day, the thing that consumes the most calories is your brain.
Yeah.
So when you're engaged like that the entire time, you probably require, I'm not going to throw a number out, but you require more calories just to keep up with the energy consumption.
Yeah. I mean, I plan to eat, and I packed in my caches, I packed 4,700 calories per day.
Damn. And were you keeping up with that?
100%.
Were you hungry enough for that, or do you feel like you were force feeding yourself?
Force feeding at times, but also it just depended on how heat exhausted you were. If you're oh, am I hungry? Too hot to eat or whatever. But those siestas anywhere from between 1 and 6 p.m. Were critical in allowing our bodies to recoup, to be able to eat that food, to have time to I don't know how to describe. You just need to like you said, turn your brain off. Those hours were critical in turning your brain off.
So before we move on from the water question, I'm curious, did you use electrolytes?
Oh, yeah. I carried 3 packs of, what are they called? Liquid IVs. I had 3 per day.
I've heard a lot about this. Is it good?
It was
Are they a
something
sponsor of yours?
No, they are not. I bought them on Amazon. I bought them well in advance on Amazon, just because I wanted to try something new. And I wanted to make sure it was something that had a fuckload of, sodium and electrolytes in them. And I knew they did. And it had a good flavor to them. Whereas Nunes are drab and boring to drink.
They're also sugar-free, which in your day-to-day is a good thing.
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
When you're burning 5,000 calories.
give me the extra sugar to go with it.
Yeah.
I will appreciate it because I can stomach, and my palate can handle that way better when you're parched. You know?
For sure.
So yeah, that was I really enjoyed using the liquid IVs quite a bit, and I think packing 3 per day was wise, and I probably could have handled 4 per day, but certainly less than that would not have been as, I think, helpful in my keeping hydrated every day.
Yeah. And go ahead.
So this is a more basic question, I guess, but how were you carrying 11 liters of water? Was it water bottles? Was it water bladders?
First of all, I carried my Zerk 60, which is a prototype pack.
Any idea when that'll be out?
No clue at the moment. Actually, that was the pack you and I carried on our hike when we went through the collegiates last year, and it's kind of been off the table because of COVID in terms of going forward with getting that pack to be manufactured capable. But the point is, the bottle pockets on that pack, I had the ability to have a 1.5 liter bottle on each side and a 1 liter bottle on each side, smart water bottle. So in my bottles that fit in my bottle pockets alone, I could carry 5 liters, and that was the standard. I carried like 4 to 5 liters out of every single source, no matter what. But there were lots of sources I carried 11 liters, and I carried
11 liters is how much? That's
25-ish pounds, 24
Yeah.
and a half pounds, roughly.
Sheesh.
It was concerning. I'll be honest with you. I did not have a good feeling about this hike.
24.25.
Yeah. So I did not have a good feeling about this hike and my ability to be successful from a physical standpoint with my knee. Given how late I was starting, given that I was like, oh, I'm bringing the ability to carry 11 liters of water. That sounds great, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have a light pack either. I didn't I didn't go for some UL kind of shit. You know, I just didn't.
Which shelter?
The one. And then I switched to a freestanding shelter after that when I was in a lot of sand.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough to stake that out.
Yeah. So anyways, I had 2-liter platypus bottle, those collapsible bottles, which, by the way, those can actually hold 2.5 liters if you completely fill it up. If you look at it, there's like 2 lines. There's like a 1 liter line, a 2 liter line, and the 2 liter line is kind of far down. I think it's just so you're not like maxing out the tension of the bottle. But I filled it up every single time because who the fuck cares? So technically between those 2 liter bottles, it's actually 5 liters. And it was like a hair under 5 liters. And then I had a 1 liter bottle from the Sawyer Squeeze, those little 1 liters. So that's 6 liters there, 6 plus the 5, 11. Yeah. And then if I needed to, I had my Vargo titanium bot, the 700 milliliters.
So you brought your stove.
Yeah.
How cold
Yeah,
are the nights?
Not terribly cold. There were a few cooler nights. The night that we stayed in the Henrys was pretty cold. There was some ice that night. The Kaibab can get pretty cold at night, which is the north rim of the Grand Canyon. But there were not too many chilly nights. And the nights in the Grand Canyon were downright hot.
Yeah. So when you're confronting this extreme heat, you've got 11 liters of water and you don't have the lightest pack. What kind of miles are you pulling?
Well, the average that we were going for was like in the 18 miles per day range. And that was just based on like, hey, let's not like set ourselves up for failure. But it's also like this other, there's another logistical consideration that all Hayduke thru hikers must get through, and it's your permits for the Grand Canyon. You have to like theorize coming out of winter what you're capable of doing miles per day wise to get to the Grand Canyon by a certain date that you hypothetically are like, oh, I'll get here on this date, and then you're locked into those Grand Canyon permit dates. So it's really tough to pinpoint how many miles per day you're going to be able to hike leading up to that, because you just don't even know what to expect in general. Like, what if you get injured? What if you want to take some days off? Like, it's tough. So we just, kind of blindly picked, not blindly, but we like did our best to pinpoint a date that we'd get to the Grand Canyon. And that was, I think, the 30th or 31st of May, which is insane now looking back.
Is it like the Wonderland Trail where you have to pick your campsite every single night and the days you're going to be there? Or can you give yourself a buffer and put a few days early? No buffer. Grand Canyon don't fuck around. Those rangers have been known to give citations if you're off permit. Now, granted, we actually found ourselves off permit once, and I figured out a way to talk my way out of it, I think. But and it wasn't because we were like, fuck this, we're going off permit. There were circumstances surrounding it.
Like 120 degrees.
Well, yeah, that played a big role in it, quite frankly. And even then it didn't, so we got ahead of our permit, and then even then it didn't make things easier for us to get out of the Grand Canyon on the south rim. We had to pull a damn near 20-mile day starting at 1:30 a.m. because of how hot it was getting, and even in the little amount of water that we had and the distance between water sources that we had. And it was like a pure, like, blown fucking like military operation. Like, we had to be regimented, and we had to do this there was no room for error kind of thing. And unless we wanted to be one of those people that get life flighted out because they have heat stroke, like I was approaching levels of if you continue to hike at the pace you're going with the little amount of water you have. Like I was getting dizzy and disoriented just climbing the South Kaibab up to the South Rim on the day where we hiked out of the Grand Canyon for the time before we decided to make the decision to get off the route. And then I did go back down in and do a rim to rim on an 113 degree day, but there's water spigots all up and down that route that you can, survive pretty easily if you're a hiker of our caliber, This is fucking crazy.
Yeah. I know you have an epic Grand Canyon story. I want to save that.
What that was. That's part of that story.
Yeah, but I know that I don't know how many details.
Oh, the other one. I'll share all the details.
No, but I want to save that first.
Oh, that's cool.
So what was your typical hiking day in terms of time? What time are you hiking? What time are you breaking?
I'm never starting past. Are you staying for the whole hike?
Or maybe during like the most extreme portions of it.
I mean, there's several extreme portions of it. It wasn't like there was. I mean, we every day where you're like down in canyons is a day that is extreme. So starting at 4 and hiking until dusk. But you're taking that siesta, so you're taking like a 2 to 4 hour break in the heat of the day, for sure. Like that's just the smart thing to do because you're conserving energy in the hardest, and during the hardest time of day to hike, you're conserving your need for your resources, aka water, and that's really what it is hiking when you don't have a readily available water source at your disposal. During the heat of the day, when your water that you have on your person is precious to you, why hike during the hours where you're going to burn that up at the most rapid rate? You just can't even drink enough water during those hours.
Yeah.
You'll get dehydrated for sure at the very least. Or you might find yourself like getting disoriented, collapsing, passing out, dying. Like that's how quickly that can happen in some of these places.
Yeah. Someone listening to this who hasn't hiked in like extreme heat or desert or any those types of conditions, can you explain the mental toll that the water game plays on you? Because like it's unlike hunger.
Yeah.
You would way rather be hungry than be extremely thirsty.
Absolutely.
So can you speak to
hunger? You can just like stop walking for a minute and you probably have food in your pack.
Right. Right.
If you don't have water in your pack, like then what?
But even the days where you miss planning your food and like you're going into town, like you have like one Cliff Bar left to cover you 15 miles, like that sucks.
It does suck.
But it's a different kind of suck.
Yeah. I mean, it's cliche to say this, but it's like water is life. Like you can't make it more than a couple of days without water, 2-3 days.
Yeah, I don't.
It's something like you can go weeks without food.
Yeah.
You cannot do that with water, and when you're in that heat, totally different ballgame. It just gets like exponentially worse rapidly. The healthy people can go to shells of themselves very quickly in the Grand Canyon or anywhere, in these canyons that we hike through. And that's typically the majority of what we're doing. If you look at the map of the Hayduke, it literally just goes zigzags from east to west across the southern Utah and northern Arizona territories. It's just like you're zigzagging through canyons. You're connecting one canyon to another, and that you're just following those drainages essentially. So you're finding yourself at the bottom of the hottest places of each area. So the mental toll though is like, I mean, your brain just starts shutting down. Like sectors of your thought processes just get bypassed into like dummy land. And I've experienced excessive heat trauma a handful of times, and I've only dealt with it from a mental capacity, not just a physical capacity. I've dealt with it from a mental capacity very seriously on the Continental Divide Trail. And that one time I dealt with it that way, it was one time too many. It was like that was enough for me to get, for lack of a better way of putting it, give me that PTSD to never find myself in that situation again. Yeah. So hence why so the girls that I was hiking with, they were always like, oh man, you're going to carry 11 liters out of here. And it literally made them rethink what they were doing to be like, okay, I think you're right. Like I should also carry a fuckload of water out of here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't fuck around with that. I don't play that game anymore. Like in this situation, especially, you know, like there's, you know, I carry an SOS button. I don't turn that shit on for any reason at all other than, you know, like maybe to two-way message someone who's like picking me up at a trailhead for whatever reason. But that sits idle and off in my backpack or my pocket until, you know, death is on the line. You know, I don't ever want to utilize that for like, oh, I got thirsty, you know. So in that respect, I got to understand what the stakes are. Like how far I'm away from water sources, how far I'm away from like getting to a road to hitchhike, like, and out here on the Hayduke Trail, it is not like you're on the PCT where like you have a lot more known road crossings, or there's other hikers around who could like, you know, lend a hand or give you water in a pinch or whatever. And to that point, like that's another reason why I do carry extra water. Like what if you do come across somebody on trail who needs it? Like you never know. If I were in that situation, like would I want somebody to be like, oh, here, I got an extra half liter for you or liter for you to like get you to, you know, the next source or whatever the hell. So it's just, yeah, and those kinds of thoughts and like logistics are constantly running through your head, at least my head, so that I can be prepared for all situations and all circumstances. And I'm not putting myself in a poor position to, you know, have a fucking problem.
Yeah. How often were you planning your siestas and or campsites based on where there was water?
Every day. But like siestas didn't always occur next to water. But like you're strategically making those choices of where your siesta is going to be based on like when the heat of the day is going to strike. And then maybe that puts you, maybe you're like, oh, I'm going to hike, you know, 15 miles to get to this point, because after the heat of the day, you only have a certain amount of like time before it's pitch black out, and maybe you don't want to hike at night so much, but you give yourself an easy striking distance to maybe where water is for camp. Yeah, so that's all playing its role. And every day I'm looking at my, you know, my how far did I hike, because I'm tracking every day on my Onyx app, and I'm always like, okay, how far do we come and how far do we have to water? That's a constantly known quantity at all times, because that's it. That's all you're, you know, you're like, with the exception of the days you're going into town, water is the number one thing you're looking at logistically.
How are you doing with sleep? Like when you're waking up at 4 a.m., I imagine, well, when you're leaving at 4 a.m., I imagine you're waking up at 3:30 and you're hiking till dusk.
I was until the Grand Canyon, I was never getting up before 3:45 too often. I could be like up with everything packed and ready to go in 15-20 minutes if I have to be. 30 minutes for sure. But what, you know, made it, you know, like, yeah, maybe you're only getting like 5 or 6 hours of sleep at night, but you're also pairing that with a few hours of daytime rest too. So like your body's still recovering in the day too. You're not overtaxing it from, you know, 4:30 a.m. till 8 p.m. You know what I mean? So you get those little extra hours of sleep in the day, which help. And they're just kind of nice. It really is, just to find some shade and like be comfortable, take a nap. Those are actually some of the better naps I've ever had in my life, were siesta naps on this hike.
So the previous episode, no, I guess it's 2 episodes ago, we did the Arizona Trail, and a common theme I've heard about the Arizona Trail is people are always surprised by the variance of diversity. Can you speak to the overall landscape profile of what you're hiking through?
Well, to a person who has never really like been out in these you know, environments in the desert, like it might all look the same to them. But there is a ton of vegetation like variance. Also geologically, there's a ton of variation. You know, the Grand Staircase Escalante, like you're literally seeing all the different layers of our like Earth, you know, like millions of years old. Like I don't remember all the different names of the zones of geological layers. But like there's the Navajo sandstone, there's the Kayenta ledges, there's the Tapetes, there's all like, and then the Grand Canyon is the cross section of all of it. But like when you're hiking out there in all these different areas, prior to the Grand Canyon, you're hiking in them. You're hiking in those different layers, and you're seeing them differently. You're hiking in like zones that are just made up of just one of those layers. So it's really interesting. You have like bright white rock, then you have like dark red rock, and then you have all the colors in between. And some of it's sandstone, some of it's limestone, some of it's I don't even know. I'm not like a pro at all that geological stuff, but like it's very photogenic. It's very beautiful, especially when throughout the day as the light changes, it all kind of looks differently from morning till noon till dusk. It's a stunningly beautiful place, and it's unparalleled in its uniqueness, I would say, through anywhere else in the country.
Yeah. So separate from the Hayduke, this is more of a personal question. How does it feel to be fucking back? Not in Colorado, but like in your hiking element. Like I haven't seen this spark in your eye.
Oh, back. I'm not back here, but back. Yeah, man, I got a ton of juice hiking this hike. It really gave me a ton of confidence in my physical aspirations for the rest of this year and beyond. There was only one day where I experienced kind of like an iffy moment where I hyperextended my knee. I was like on an edge of like some dirt and rock, and the edge gave way, and I dropped like 2 or 3 feet, and my knee hyperextended, and I was like, oh shit, in that split second I was like, I'm dead, and for like a day or two it felt a little weird, but it didn't hurt at all. After that, no issue. No, these fucking headphones are
take them
brutal.
Take them off.
No, I'm good. So the confidence that I gained pulling out of the Hayduke, or while on the Hayduke, let's put it this way: when I started the Hayduke, if you had told me that I was going to end up getting off trail in the Grand Canyon, I would have told you it was because of my knee or something like that. But no, it was. It's great. I feel invigorated. I had an excellent experience personally, emotionally, spiritually, all of the above. Just coming out with some of the better vibes I've had since hiking. Oh man, even doing the PCT with you in 2017, I finished on a horrible note. Coming off of plantar fasciitis, and then the hike went great until the last day, essentially, when I fucked my shit up.
By the way, we should talk about Ian.
Cool.
Off air.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah. I feel great, and I think that the Hayduke is about to be a nice little like springboard for the rest of what I want to do this summer and beyond.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess for someone that hasn't been following your journey closely, and you've been on the show enough times, and I imagine most people have, but for the 2 people that haven't, obviously you've got over 10,000 miles. Do you tally it?
I'm closer to like 25.
25,000 miles. Yeah. And then, you've done everything on trail, off trail, whatever. The last couple of years have kind of sucked for you. Like the long trail was one that's defeated you twice, and you had to get off
twice in the same year,
and you had to get off the second time because your knee was fucked. You ended up getting surgery on that.
Yeah.
Obviously, last year was last year.
Yeah, we did a couple of shorter hikes. Didn't really work out great for anything long, obviously. But I didn't even think I had the confidence in my leg to do anything big last year anyway, so that's probably good.
Yeah. And here you are, you finished the Hayduke feeling awesome.
Well, I didn't finish the Hayduke. Well, okay. I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
Yeah, you got off the Hayduke doing most of the Hayduke, feeling good.
Yeah, I feel great.
With big plans for the rest of the year.
I have aspirations to do a like Sangre de Cristo traverse.
Hell yeah.
Which I haven't researched at all yet, but that's something I'm
going
to be looking.
I think Twinkle's done at least something. He's done a lot of stuff down there. It's in Colorado.
Yeah, so it's just a range that's down near the New Mexico border that
What's
has
it called?
the Sangre de Cristos. Yeah, and it has at least one 14er in it that's a pain in the ass for a lot of people to tag as their 14er like checklist.
Can you see that range from the CT?
Probably on a clear day, maybe from like Lost Creek or something like that. On a clear day, and you'd have to like really know where you're looking, I would imagine. But it's just south of the Great Sand Dunes National Park. Literally, like you just go due south from there. Like those mountains like lead into Great Sand Dunes essentially. But I don't know what it takes to traverse that whole range. I'll look into it. Maybe I'll hit up Twinkle. We've been talking about trying to get a hike in together. In fact, he mentioned, hey, come do the Flatirons with me. It's not nearly as bad as Zach makes him out to be.
God damn it. Fuck that guy. He's so unassuming seeming, and
Right?
he does the most hardcore
Yeah,
shit.
right.
Like,
I know.
I get sweaty palms when he posts him doing that climb every single time.
So I'm not sure I'm going to do that,
Yeah.
But we'll see. And then I want to get back out and do another hike that I didn't get to complete, thanks to a hiking companion of mine. You ever hear of the Fifner Traverse?
I would do the second half of it with you.
Well, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
That would be an August thing, right?
Probably I'll try it in July, I would imagine.
Okay, you're on your own.
Okay. I think they won't be too bad up there.
Oh,
with the
yeah,
snow.
yeah.
It'll be all right. So anyways, and then from that point on, without giving away anything, I'm going to be helping a friend attempt some speed stuff later this year that everybody will learn in time. And it'll be fun. It'll be interesting, and it'll be crazy. It'll be a way for me to experience a trail that I've hiked before in a new way. So that's about all I can give on that front, and that'll be a big project. That's actually the crux of my summer. We'll kind of climax with that. But after that, I have intentions of doing something I was going to do this spring that just didn't work out. Was going to Bosnia to hike in Bosnia with my old pal Damien, who got me to come hike in Jordan, and that's on the radar as well. And then of course I'm going to go back and finish off the Hayduke this fall when the weather in the Grand Canyon, the heat in the Grand Canyon becomes a lot more friendly.
Is that October, November?
October, most likely. Yeah, I mean, the apparently fall in the Grand Canyon is great, and especially in and around the North Rim area, this autumn strikes that area because there's aspens and stuff like that. So
Is that going to affect the water from there to Zion to have it be at the end of summer rather than at the beginning?
I imagine it can't get any worse than what it was for me when I went through, and they do have like a bit of a quote unquote monsoon season. Now they haven't had a significant one in a couple of years either, but they can fill up potholes with rain over there for sure. Potholes end up being a pretty critical way of supplementing between the known water sources. So yeah, I mean it'll work out. It'll work out. Where there's a will, there's a way.
I apologize.
Or
if
I'll
you guys, Yeah, I apologize if you guys talked about this while I was in the bathroom. But what's the quality of the water like? Was that touched
Nope,
upon?
not touched on.
There are certainly tons of very horrible sources. I mean, as you would expect in the desert.
Is that where the electrolytes come in handy?
No, because the ones that taste bad are like ones that are like alkali, and you can't mask alkali at all for anything at all. So that you kind of just have to stomach. It helps, but it's still like you're still drinking that flavor regardless. It just the mask that electrolytes provide is more of just like a flavor in addition to, as opposed to like a true mask. But there are some sources that royally fuck your filter up. Some that are super silty. There's others that are just filled with like tannin and like dead bugs and shit like that. Like specifically, there's Muley Twist Tank or something like that. When you're in Capitol Reef National Park and you're in the waterfold. If anyone knows what that is, has anyone ever been there? Basically, one of the main water folds that goes all the way down to Lake Powell. There's a slot canyon there called Muley Twist, and when you exit the canyon, there's a tank, which is, when I say tank, you're probably thinking of like a metal tank, but no, this is like a giant pothole, like a natural pothole that fills with water, and it holds water for quite a while because it's a large one, and that water is absolutely disgusting. But to the person hiking the Hayduke, it's fucking water, you know. So I'm actually, this is the first day I was hiking full. First day I met the girls on trail, where we were actually okay, we're gonna hike and camp together. And the one girl always carried a milk jug that was like the top was lopped off, so you could like use the milk jug to like fill up giant buckets. Yeah, we actually called her Jugs.
Jugs and Jughead.
Hey, she did carry 2 at a time sometimes, but at this point in time she's only carrying 1. But she that was like a staple of them hiking. They would fill them up and like dump them on themselves and whatever, just because it's so hot. You just want to cover yourself in water as often as possible and rinse the salt off your body. But in this one, we're using this jug to fill up the shit water, and I'm putting my bandana, like kind of feeding it down into my bottle, the mouth of my bottle a little bit, and then pouring the shit water in through as like a pre-filter through my bandana. And then you pull the bandana out and you're just like, oh, here's the whole fucking like 2 ounces of sediment, like dead bug sediment that would have, I didn't want to send that through my filter, just like there'd be no point.
Right.
So yeah, the water can be really bad sometimes.
I assume you were back flushing the Sawyer at every time.
Often, I carried that back flusher for sure.
Yeah.
I actually got away from using the Sawyer because of how, it's just gonna happen to any filter that you carry. Those girls were using the Be Free, and the Be Free was like taking them forever to fill their water, filter their water. I got away from filtering because I just was like, I don't give a shit what's in my water. I'll do a pre-filter with my bandana, and I'll use Aquamira. That's just what I did,
So you carried both the entire trail?
I actually carried three different water. I had a Sawyer filter, the squeeze, the big one. I had Aquamira drops, and then as a backup, that if I didn't have enough Aquamira or if they didn't sell it in town, I also carried iodine, and I used iodine a lot as well too.
Iodine tastes terrible, right?
Yeah, but they have a neutralizer tab that you put in with it it actually makes the water look milky, but like it removes the flavor of the iodine and the color of the iodine. So that's the first time on any hike I've ever used iodine rather.
Yeah. So I know typically when you get to town in the context of a through hike, like the thing you want to do is gorge yourself. Is that still the case, or are you just so focused on hydration? Is it both?
It's both. But here's one that's not a focus.
I'll take another one of those too.
Okay, cool. And here's one that's not a focus at all. Alcohol.
Yeah, sure.
Don't give a shit.
You do not want to dehydrate yourself.
I don't even it doesn't even enter my brain.
Yeah.
I'm not I carried whiskey.
I'm past the days of drinking anyways.
Yeah, me too. Actually this is I've been back for a few days now, and I think I've drank every single night since I've been home. And that's already wearing on me. Shout
out to the Golden Mill, pretty cool spot, right?
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
I spent like $250 there. No big deal. For others, not just myself.
Any sponsors you'd like to plug?
My butt plug sponsor. Yeah, so did you hear what I said, Chaunce?
No.
I said my butt plug sponsor.
Oh. Thank you for repeating that.
I'd like to plug my butt plug sponsor.
Yeah. Mom, don't listen to this.
Yeah. I also know, like, in the evolution of your hiking career, nutrition has become a growing thing of importance for you. Like, at first it was just like eat as much junk food as possible, and then on the PCT we were pretty intentional about what we were eating. I imagine during something like this that was a factor for you.
I didn't carry nearly the amount of junk food on this hike that I did that I have on other hikes. Candy bars were not a staple of my nutrition at all. I ate oatmeal, and I had Carnation instant breakfasts every morning. I was eating like good beef jerky, not like Slim Jims or shit like that. The Righteous Felon is a sponsor of mine, and I was eating like 3 meat sticks from they're like, it's a good fucking beef, you know what I mean?
You've given me some, it's actually really
good. And so I ate 3 meat sticks and a package, like a 2.5 ounce package of beef jerky every day. I had a good to go meal for at every night that I was out there, and even though I know for most people they can't afford that, and luckily they're also a sponsor of mine, and I'm able to afford that in that sense. But like the nutrition that I get from them, even though it gives me the shats,
a lot of fiber in those meals.
But it's good. But I never had a lack of energy in the sense that I wasn't getting enough proper nutrition.
Yeah.
And I honestly, this is. I kind of wung it with all the other stuff that I bought for the hike. Like I went to Costco and made one trip to Costco and spent, I don't know, like $350, $400 for all my caches. And sorry. So and like I actually purchased, without like doing the math like and figuring it out, like I purchased the exact amount of food per day, 4,700 calories per day. I didn't have anything extra. Essentially, I had like a little bit of like I had the only like junk food I had really was like peanut M&Ms. But there's peanuts in that, and like you still need sugar too. But I didn't have like Twinkies and like whatever, Little Debbie's and stuff like that. I had like Bobos, and I had what else? I had like actual fruit sticks, like whoever makes those things, I don't even know. But it was stuff that was not like over inundated with junk. Yeah, and I felt pretty good. And in fact, I know like I changed my body composition while I was out there quite a bit, but. And I felt like I had lost like 15, 20 pounds maybe. I ended up coming home and weighing myself the first night. And at that point in time, I hadn't had dinner. And I'd been like 3.8 pounds less than when I left. I was like 226.6 when I left. And I came back being like 222.2 or something like that. Yeah. So I didn't lose a lot of weight, but I think that's because I ate healthy and like I transitioned bad weight into good weight, so
it sounds like you were also intentionally getting a lot of protein, which is going to create a lot of muscle growth.
I think it was ideal. I think it was pretty good. Yeah, because if on those long distance backpacking trips, you kind of just make like shitty decisions on your nutrition because your palate just can't handle the same bullshit all the time. For sure. So then you finally just start eating stuff that's palatable because it's junk and it's easy and
double stuffed Oreos.
Yeah, and I didn't take any Oreos with me on any stretch at all, even when I was buying town food to take out. So
that's very much restraint. I don't think like even when I'm trying to eat healthy, I've always got one thing in my pack that's like you shouldn't, but
it was also only 7 weeks at that point in time too. Yeah. It wasn't like I'm in month 3. Right.
Right.
I want some stories. I want to hear like what was your favorite day on trail? Let's start there.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, there's a bunch. I enjoyed. There was a day that Cuckoo Bird and I dropped in from Tarantula Mesa. That I don't even know the name of this region. All I know is you come out of the Henrys and we camped on Tarantula Mesa. And we drop into this really. You ever hear the term chinley? Chinley's like it's like that super loose. It's not scree. It's like dirt, but when you look at it from afar, it looks like almost like sandcastle-y. You know what I mean? And it has like a the term ombre with hair. Imagine like these like sandcastles are like ombre'd. So when you actually hike on those things, they're very, very loose and it's like very, very steep. And so the footing is horrible. And we dropped down into this like chinley and we were just hiking around all these like, basically like it felt like sandcastles. We were just everywhere. It was really cool. And we dropped into some slotty places and, I don't know, that was a really great day. So it was like leading into getting to Capitol Reef. That was a great day. Another great day was the day that, I got a permit for the wave, and that was absolutely righteous because there's trail angels in Kanab, and they told us about this other way of getting into the wave permitted area, which is technically called Coyote Buttes North. So there's 2 Coyote Buttes permitted areas. The north is like where the wave is. The south is like where some other crap is. It's much less popular because the wave is the wave. And, they're now giving like more permits out. But like, I mean, it was like a miracle that I was the first time I ever tried to get a permit for it. And I was the first name that was called for like the lottery to get it. And I was with those 2 girls at the time. So the 3 of us got to go into the wave together because you can have 4 per permit. And so this trail angel, Richard, I can't remember his last name offhand, but he told us about an off-trail way of hiking in. There's basically this notch, this pass in between 2 peaks you enter from the west, and you can hike around and see all these other cool areas in Coyote Buttes North. And then you can, that takes time to hike through all of that because it's a big area. And by the time we made our way to the wave, all the other people that had gotten their permits were already gone. Because like it's hot at that point in time during the day, and everybody's like, all right, I'm done with this. I'm just a tourist. They're not like backpackers. So we were able to enjoy the wave with no other tourists, no other people, and we got to stay there like through the golden hour and just enjoy an entire day in that permitted area. So some people like travel. I mean, when I went to go apply for the permit, you go to this big gymnasium in Kanab, and everybody's all social distance, whatever. But and they literally do like a raffle type thing where they have all these like numbered balls in this like cage, and they turn the wheel and out pops a number. And there were people there from like Vietnam, from China, from Japan that were like, we came all the way from across the globe to come see the wave.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, it's stunning. It really is. Zach is showing a picture of what the wave looks like. And I got to like hang out there with like that person we're looking at got that picture because there were people all around them that were waiting to take their turn without anyone in the photo.
Yeah.
We got to like literally take naps right there.
That's awesome.
With nobody around.
So, what part of the trail are you at where you're there? Because you said it goes through the Grand Canyon and then ends in Zion, but Kanab is like Zion, right?
Well, Kanab is like central to like the North Rim, Zion, and like Bryce almost. Like it's kind of like equidistant, more or less, from all those places.
Okay.
Yeah, and the wave is like, I want to say like an hour and a half from Kanab, but the Kanab is where you hitch in to like have a town day from Upper Buckskin Gulch.
Got it.
You come to Highway 89 there, and you hitchhike in, and then you hitchhike back. But so we got our permits, and then we actually got a ride down to the trailhead for the wave, and we still had to go back and cover the 16 miles from the hitch point down to the wave. So we spent our vacation day in the wave area, then camped at the State Line Trailhead, which is State Line Campground Trailhead, which is the northern terminus of the Arizona Trail. Left our tents set up at a free campsite. Went and did we northbound the 16 miles back to Highway 89, which is the hitch point to Kanab. Hitchhiked back into Kanab, went to a pizza buffet, and then hitchhiked back down to where. So for 2 nights we actually had our tents set up there. The night before we hit the wave, and the night of the same day that we were at the wave, and we did hiking every day. And then on the third day of being in that area, we then finally continued south along the route, which, by the way, the Arizona Trail is closed for a large portion due to last year's Magnum fire. So we actually had to do a 20-mile road walk down to the main road that goes up to Jacob Lake. I'm getting boring here right now, but
You said the Arizona Trail?
the Arizona Trail's closed due to a fire from last year.
Oh, okay.
Right there in
The
that
whole
segment.
trail.
The whole damn trail. No, that's the only stuff we had to do that was like off route, was like this reroute.
Mm-hmm.
What about like scary moments?
Oh, there's a bunch. I mean, you're
Any
dealing
good
with
scary stories?
significant exposure often. There was one scary moment for my hiking companion swept away. We were hiking into Coyote Gulch from Stevens Canyon and Escalante Canyon. We were on an alternate. We followed the water pocket fold all the way down to this route that takes you up and over the swell, and then down into to Stevens Canyon, which is a stunning alternate. Stevens Canyon is like next level awesome, but Stevens Canyon is really ledgy and steep, significant, dangerous, death drops. In fact, we just found out like a couple weeks ago that a kid was hiking through the Escalante River Canyon area. I think he was technically in Moody Canyon, and he fell 60 feet directly onto his face. And had to get life flighted out with like 2 helicopter teams, and had to go to some hospital in Las Vegas to have like significant facial surgery.
Can you live from that? 60
He did.
feet
He did. He
falling on
actually
your
hit his
face?
own SOS button after being unconscious for an untold amount of time.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So those are 60 feet. Like that's often you're experiencing 60 plus feet often of exposure, and it's loose terrain too. Obviously, whatever he dealt with, slipped, fell, whatever. Maybe I don't know what his deal was. I'm just glad he survived. But that's a risk at often on the Hayduke. It really is. It really is you better be comfortable with exposure, because it's going to happen a lot. And so Swept Away and I were hiking out of the Escalante River Canyon through Coyote Gulch, and Coyote Gulch has a couple of like steep sandstone traverses where there's high consequence falls. And when I say high consequence, it's, like obviously if you slip and fall, you're going to, at the very least, break something, at the very worst, die, and she's not great with exposure, but she's a trooper with it, she doesn't let it stop her. But our shoes we had been hiking through water for 2 days essentially, and our shoes are soaked and they're caked with like the sand and dirt, so we don't have good traction at all. And the sandstone, when your feet are wet, are not tacky. When your shoes are dry and the sandstone's dry, extremely solid traction and solid footing. When it's all wet and you're covered in water and like sandy dirt and mud, it's a whole different thing. It's very, very nerve-wracking. And she took a line that was like sketchy, and she halfway through it was probably like a 30-foot traverse of steep sandstone, and about maybe like 2/3 of the way through it, actually maybe even more, she was maybe like 10 feet from like where she would have been good to go. She totally panicked, and I'm like, and like stopped and like getting real shaky. And if Swept Away, if you're listening to this, I love you. I'm sorry I'm telling this story, but I had to live through this as well because it was nerve wracking for me. And even though I was like as calm and collected as I could be from a coaching standpoint from the other side, I was just like, hey, just calm down, breathe. I was like, keep your footing, get a handhold. But she turned around, and while it was the right call, it was nerve wracking to watch her turn around with the consequence being what it was. And luckily, but she recognized it and dealt with it and came back to me. And then we found another line and took that line and that had better handholds, and we got through it. That was nerve-wracking for me, though.
When you say turn around, like actually physically turned around?
She turned around and came back to me.
Yeah. Would it have been easier to just like face and like step back? I don't know.
There was no like, no. Like, I can't, it's tough to explain. Yeah. Like there is, I don't know. No, she just turned around and just came back towards me. Uh-huh. And I reached out my trekking pole to give her something to like hold on to when she came back, because she was like certainly like sketched out big time, and I just was like, hey, you got to make sure you breathe, because that's like the number one thing is like, don't panic, don't panic and make a rash decision where you're like, you're twitching and then all of a sudden you lose your footing or whatever. And it made me think like, this is like how many people fall here doing this exact thing? Like, I don't even know, but yeah.
What stopped you from going out to her?
That would be like, it was too far if she did slip. Like, then we're just talking about 2 people needing to be rescued or 2 people dying. Like there was no safe way for me to go out there and give her assistance. Let's put it that way. And she knew that too. Like that, just like if she slipped and fell, like there wasn't enough time for me to be. I was too far. It's like from me to the refrigerator, and like that's not a thing you like move across quickly to like do anything to help somebody either. Yeah. So that was a little sketchy. I don't know if there's too much like super scary stuff that I like that for me. I don't know if I could point to anything super scary on the exposure front at all.
All right, so speaking of stories, let's talk about the Grand Canyon.
Can we talk about the Grand Canyon in like 1 minute?
Yeah.
Because I have to piss like a mother.
Sure. Chaunce and I will chat amongst ourselves.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll be right back, everybody.
How you feeling, Chaunce?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Are you feeling better?
No.
So you're not doing good.
I'm doing as good as I can.
Putting on a brave face for the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm terribly hungover.
Yeah.
Woke up, immediately threw up. Sorry, Mom. And now I'm here.
What'd you do last night?
Drank.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, I went on a scooter for the first time. Is that what you're trying to get out of me? Okay, yeah. I rode one of those scooters for the first time, and it was really fun.
Yeah. Like a Lime?
Yeah. It reminded me of like the motorbikes you can ride in Southeast Asia. Basically just like Vespas. But they go pretty fast. I didn't realize how fast they would go.
They do go fast. And I feel like the majority of people that use them are using them in the context of going from one bar to the next.
I will say in a safe way, I did it to go to the bar.
Yeah.
So I wasn't I can't imagine being drunk on one of those.
Not throwing any stones. I've definitely done it under the influence. And I'm surprised you don't hear stories all the time of people that just go like head on into traffic.
I'm surprised there are no like laws about it because
Oh, you get a
can
DUI
get it
for sure.
Oh, can you? Okay, because I was gonna say
you get a DUI on a bike.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
If you can get a DUI riding a bike, these things are like, surely,
Yeah.
they go like 30 miles an hour.
Yeah. Also, probably worth mentioning is we are on TikTok now. We've got Leah here running the video ship, and she's getting some vertical shots. We don't really know how TikTok works, but chances are you guys do. So I think it's just at Backpacker Radio. Just search Backpacker Radio.
We're trying to stay young and hip with the kids.
Yeah.
Tall order.
You can only deny it for so long before everyone's on it, and like it's just a thing.
I still don't have the app.
I have it just to get the account.
Also don't have it.
Yeah.
Daddy's back.
So
Daddy's
guys,
back.
download TikTok.
Grand Canyon.
So, the Grand Canyon, first day, drop in on the Nankoweap Trail. You're dropping over 6,000 feet to get to the canyon floor, which is like you're starting like 8,800 and you're getting down to like 2,600 feet. And that doesn't count any of the rolling that exists, but it's mostly down. So ended up being like balls ass hot day. It was like, I mean, you start at 8,800 feet. Like, we almost forgot that we were entering like the hot zone. We were just like, oh, we're gonna go to the Grand Canyon. Sweet. I literally was off my radar that we're gonna get down there and it was gonna be brutal. And then but it's totally exposed almost the whole time, and you get down to the Nankoweap Creek, which was flowing, thankfully, because
Sorry to interrupt. Did you have any sun gear, like an umbrella or anything like that?
I actually carried an umbrella for the majority of the hike and only used it one time.
Huh. Why?
I don't know. I just don't like holding that shit.
Okay.
I don't know, man. Anyways, swept away used an umbrella often, but I had a good tan going, so I didn't need it for that. She needed it for like keeping the sun off her skin.
Yeah.
Like for not
I know
burning.
that game.
You know that game.
I know that game.
So
I'm melting thinking about it.
I handle the heat pretty well, given all the breaks in the water. I handle it well enough to the point of like it doesn't destroy me when I'm in the sun hiking, in the same way that it can other people. I never felt like I needed to be using the umbrella. So could it have helped me? Probably. Certainly if the sun's not beating on you, like you don't need to drink as much water. But it's a comfort, it's like a mental thing. Like I'm not able to get in my hiking zone when I'm like also holding this fucking umbrella thing.
It gets tiring to hold.
Yeah,
too, as I know from the mile I had to hold it for Zach.
It's just, and I also like having the ability to have my hand free if I want it to be. Anyway, so got down to the Nankoweap Trail, Nankoweap Creek. Took a siesta, a very, very necessary siesta. It was actually that descent like murdered me. It's just because of we hadn't had that kind of descending the entire hike, like 6,000 feet in 7 miles.
There's probably not descending like that in many places on Earth.
No, and while I had already hiked 600 miles to get there, more or less. A little bit less, but I was like, oh yeah, like crush this, whatever. No, my legs were sore for like 3 days after that, like because you just I don't know how to explain it. They're just sore. It was like that was a physically taxing, but it was also like very taxing on my brain and my hydration situation because I was out of water 2 miles before that in the beating sun, and my feet were getting torched because the ground was so hot that my feet were getting hot spots from the heat of the ground. Just the friction and the heat of the ground on my feet on the ground. It was crazy. Got down to the Nankoweap Creek. Took a long break, a long needed break, and we just drank and drank. I think I drank 7 liters of water while I definitely drank 7 liters of water. I remember specifically while I was there, and I hiked out with a few. But you follow that creek all the way down to the Colorado River. So, and when we got there, we were just like, all right, here we are. This is the Colorado River. It was like roaring. This is, we were told like, oh yeah, drought season. The Colorado's low, whatever, but like that motherfucker is fucking ripping. Like that river is controlled by a dam, so like it's not the same as like the Colorado up at Moab. That's just like if that's low, that's low. But everything below the dam in the Grand Canyon is like they still control that flow, and so it's still like it's still ripping pretty good. It's still a river, and it's still rafted commercially every single day. So you need water to be flowing through there for the the commercial use of that river. And so we knew our task. We were going to hike a little bit and then find a camp along the Colorado River, and we knew there was the prospect of finding rafting trips and like maybe yogiing some food, whatever. And eventually we would have needed to hitch a ride across the Colorado to the other side where we would pick up the Beamer Trail. And that was like 9 miles down. But there were like 9 miles that were going to be very arduous, very tedious, very difficult, slow going, bushwhacking through reeds, bushwhacking through tall grasses, and then just boulder hopping, very, very. Oh, and when you're not through that, it's all sandy, so it's like just slow going, and we weren't really looking forward to that, to be honest with you. But no sooner did we round the corner after leaving the Noncoweep Creek confluence, and we found a large group of rafters, a commercial rafting guided trip. And we literally come out of the bushes, and it's like, bam, we're like amongst like civilization, essentially, like people that were like, did not look like us, they were not ragged. They were having a good time. There was like food being made. There was beers being drank, and people were merry and like not exhausted. And we're like, and I was just like, oh boy, like what do we got here? Like, are we getting vortexed right out of the gate? Like, and swept away is like the consummate like point person for like. I learned this over the weeks that we had spent together. Like she just has this personality that like people are gravitate towards her for talking. And before I knew it, she was like, "So, are we in time for dinner?" And they're like, "Yeah, you hungry?" And we're like, I was like, "Oh my God, like what is happening?" Like I was like a couple hours earlier, I was like dead to the world, and now here we are like with a prospect of like eating a dank meal, And then before I knew it, this dude was like, "Hey, yo, dude, you want a beer?" And I looked at this guy, we made eye contact, and it was just like, that guy was the guy that I was about to go drink some beers with. It was just like I met like somebody like us who was just like a river guide, and it was a great evening. And so I was given a beer, whiskey, food, a place to sit, all of the above within like minutes. And then as we're sitting there, this guy's name is PJ. He's like, "Yo, dude," he's like, "It would be," he's like, by the way, he had no idea who the hell I was or we were. They understood within a few minutes that what we were doing, and they were like in awe, like, "Oh, you're hiking the Hayduke? That's crazy." But he's like, "It would be my most extreme honor." He's like, "If you would join us tomorrow on the river, And I was like, the thru hiker in me is like, has that quick battle of like, do you do this? Do you get on the boat? Do you decide to get on a boat right now when you still have like miles to hike before you actually are supposed to hitchhike across the Colorado? And in my brain, I'm like, that's all a bunch of bullshit, like this whole like ego situation about like, did you hike every single mile of like said like hike? Well, first of all, this isn't a Triple Crown trail. Yeah. This is an adventure. Like I never looked at this like I am a thru hiker on the Hayduke Trail. I looked at it like I'm having an adventure, and that's how I felt about it with the paddle trip coming out of Moab, and that's how I felt about it with everything that I was doing from that point on. But I still had that like moment of like where I had to like look at myself like, do you do this? And I looked at the girls and I was like, we just got an offer for a ride down to the Little Colorado. And I was like, how do you feel about that? And I looked at Swiftway and she goes, I feel pretty fucking good about that. And I'm like, me too. And so, cause it was like, it was hot, it was like hot, and we're just like, I don't know, just have a little bit of like luxury for a minute. Felt like, what an incredible place to experience that.
Also, the lottery to get one of those things is insane, right?
Oh, dude. And these people that are down there are paying, people that are paying to be on those trips are paying thousands and thousands of dollars to go float to Colorado with these guided trips for 17
You're
days.
a fucking idiot if you say no to
I
that
agree.
situation.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. 100%. I agree. There was no way I could, in good conscience, like if I had watched them paddle away the next morning, like what kind of idiot would do that?
Having the pure thing, guys.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, and these people, it honestly felt like destiny, essentially. Like the people were all just right. They were all just right. They were like everybody, the guests that paid, the guys, the trip leader, everybody was like top notch, next level, awesome people. And it just felt like this is what you have to do. Like I felt like that decision was fate, you know? And so, the next morning, we have a good night having a few, nobody got like drunk or anything like that, but we had like spaghetti and meatballs and salad and things you don't get on trail. And just the company of good people. And it felt like, it was special. It felt really special. And then the next morning we get up, and unfortunately one of the guest members, an 80-year-old man that was there with his 3 kids, he had to get life flighted out. He was actually shitting blood, like kind of profusely apparently. And so a helicopter literally came to our location and not life flighted him out necessarily, but like took him to the South Rim where they could put him on an ambulance and take him to Flagstaff or whatever.
Did you ever get word on what happened?
I did not. No. But I will find out soon here. In fact, is today the 11th or the 12th? Today's the 11th?
12th.
The 12th? Okay, so I think their trip is ending today. So they've still been in the canyon ever since. Yeah, man. So after they get him safely on the helicopter, we were able to continue. The guided trip was able to continue. We got a late start. But as soon as I got in PJ's boat, and this guy was like a guy like me. Like he's like personality wise, very similar. Very much a hippie. Very much like he's like sewing like moccasins out of like deer pelts and sewing like things out of like leather and stuff. And he's into like crystals and that kind of thing, and ayahuasca, all that kind of stuff, which that borders on a lot of things that I'm intrigued by. But he's just a good dude, and I was like, we had a connection immediately. And he's like, I want you on my boat. And the other 2 girls got in other boats as well. And as soon as we got in the boat and we set off in the morning, he's like, yo, you want to row? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll row a little bit.
Took a look at your arms and was like, he took the wheel.
Yeah, he's like, you could use this mule. Well, so I didn't think he was like, hey, do you want to row us like for a long period of time here? I just thought he was like, hey, you want to row a little bit? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And mind you that this boat, it's an inflatable raft, and with rowing oars, and this boat had like a significant amount of gear for the entire trip for all the guests and customers, so like, there's a little bit of responsibility there to not tip this boat or whatever. But I didn't think it was like even going to come to that, because I didn't think that I was going to be doing anything gnarly. But that turned out to be very different very soon, because he's just like, oh, you're doing great. He's like, you're doing great. We'll go through a couple of these smaller rapids, and oh, you did great. He's always just giving me the proper direction. And we're the very last boat. We're the very last boat in the train of like maybe like 10 boats. So all the guest boats are way up front, and these like they're basically like wooden, like big canoe kayak type things. They're called dories. And they're like the best boats. Like they're like the Ferrari of boats on the Grand Canyon, or on the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon. But then there's like 3 or 4 like crew, not crew boats, but like there's no paying customers on these other boats. They're just like gear with guides that are paddling these. And I'm on the very last one. So we're able to like kind of like be off on our own a little, and like we're just having this one-on-one kind of experience with me figuring out how to navigate a significantly tricky body of water.
Is he coaching you?
He's coaching mostly the whole time. He was like giving me direction. Mm-hmm. There are times, in between some of these trickier areas where it's pretty flat water, but the canyon bends quite a bit, and you got to make sure you don't get caught in eddies. You got to make sure you don't get pinned on rocks. You got to make sure you don't flip the boat. And So, he's like, he tosses me his whiskey bottle. We crack a couple beers, we're kind of like casually drinking a little bit. He's like, hey, let's play a little music too. And I'm like, all right. So he puts on like Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, and like it's playing low. But, as I'm paddling along, he starts saying, like, hey, we got some rapids coming up. He's like, I think you can handle these. And I'm like, okay, all right. And what I didn't realize is like, I find out later that that this one rapid in particular called Quagunt, I didn't find out until after I paddled through this class 4 rapid that somebody had flipped the boat and somebody died literally within the week of me coming through there. Oof. And I'm glad I didn't know that beforehand. Because as we were approaching this rapid, I'm seeing all of these other boats in front of me going into it. And then they hit the right entry point, and they kind of like disappear into like white water. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, are you sure
Can I get some more of that whiskey?
Yeah. I was like, are you sure you want me doing this? He's like, you got this. I have full faith in you, like 100%. I'm like, I did not have his same confidence about it at all. And I'm not like, it wasn't like I was scared of like the water or scared, but like this is like 12 hours earlier. This was not a prospect I was prepared to be handling. You know what I mean? So this is like a lot of shit's racing through my mind about, what I'm doing. And, but before you know it, I'm taking the line and I'm teeing up and I'm dropping in and as I'm dropping in and like the emotions are swelling internally of the excitement and like Pink Floyd, he's turning the volume up and the music's hitting at the exact right time. And I'm just like having this like kind of like out of body experience with what's going on. Like, and let me like explain to you, like I'm in the fucking Grand Canyon, like looking around, you are in this unbelievably magical place. Okay. So like it's adding to this like energy that's happening, and I'm with this dude who like I connected with immediately. I'm on this adventure that I've fully immersed in. I'm like, at this point I'm like 5-6 weeks in, and it's like that's when you really start hitting on an adventure like that. That's where you really start feeling like you're in it. After the first month, you start to like take on this other kind of like frame of mind when you're through hiking or adventuring or whatever. So all these things were coming into play, and it was just such a pinnacle like experience of the adventure of the hike. And now I'm dropping into this rapid, and he's just like, whatever you do, he looks back at me. He's like, whatever you do, don't stop rowing. And I'm just like, fucking shit. And I'm just like pushing. And by the way, I still like this blister just popped the other day. This is like 2 weeks ago at this point. And like I was rowing the entire time for like, I think like I paddled 7 miles of the river. And it felt like 20 miles in terms of like how hard I was rowing. Like wasn't casual. Like, my hands they're still sloughing off of like, from that experience. Like skin is still coming off my hands just because I was gripping those oars so tightly and I was paddling so hard. And I mean, that was the hardest my upper body had worked in, 8 weeks prior to that. So as much like feet have to get in tune with backpacking, like my hands weren't ready for rowing like that either. So after like 6 or 7 miles, I was like, yo, dude, and going through that rapid, especially, I was like, yo, dude, I need a break. I was like, my hands cannot keep up with this, essentially, like I'm not a natural at this like you are. And he's like, all right, dude, it's all good. And then Pink Floyd leveled out and we swapped places. And I was just like, I got to like breathe and I got to take in the fact that I just did what I did. And to anyone who's rafted before, like maybe that's nothing to you, but that's like, it was like a fucking like, almost it felt like life altering experience in some ways. Like I want to hit the river again. I like started envisioning the prospect and the idea of like, do I get into something like this? Do I enjoy this to that extent enough to pivot on the adventures that speak to me, So we'll see how that turns out in the long run. But I could see myself. In fact, he's coming off the Grand Canyon. I think today, if all went according to plan, and he's heading up to Buna to Buena Vista, Buna, whatever, or to the people that have never heard anyone from the region talk about it. Yeah, is it Buena? They say Buena Vista.
I say Buena Vista.
It's
Probably completely wrong.
I think
they pronounce it Buna.
I think it is Buena Vista.
I've also heard Buna from locals there, but
don't quote me on that. I could be wrong.
But people also say Buena.
Yeah.
The people that are not from there, they're like, oh, that's how you pronounce that Spanish word.
Right.
Anyway, so he's going up there to begin rafting on the Arkansas for a few weeks of summer or longer, I think. And he's like, yo, you need to come up. I'm going to take you out on the Arkansas. And I'm like, why would I say no to that?
Yeah.
You know?
Change the trajectory of your future adventure.
Yeah, man, and it actually saved. So being with them, we had dinner the night before, we had breakfast with them that morning, and then lunch when we got to the Little Colorado. Like they got out and like had a little adventure along the Little Colorado, where they hiked up the Little Colorado a little ways and took turns running down this like water chute where you almost like a water slide, if you will, and so we got to be with them for even longer that day than we anticipated. And it was like this big, sad goodbye when they all left. Like, I mean, we're talking, I got a big group photo with all of them, and it's just like everybody was stoked that we were the highlight of their trip to that point, and they were the highlight of ours.
Yeah, sure.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
So we got food from them, and it worked out great because I ran the logistics for our Grand Canyon resupply, like what we need to get through the Grand Canyon from Jacob Lake. I shorted us by a day. So we needed their food. I didn't mean to short us by a day, but I fucked up.
So they saved your life.
Actually, and it even wasn't enough.
Yeah.
We actually, because we thought we had an extra day of food because we got food from them.
Yeah.
So we ended up ending to binge. We binge ate the next day our food to have less weight. But as we approached I think we were like 2 days out from getting up to the South Rim, and I was like, you guys. I think I fucked up. Like, I don't think I have enough food. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I think I shorted us by a day. And then we had to ration our food through and we had the biggest miles we had to do from that point on because they transported us 9 miles down the river. That's 9 miles of very difficult hiking that we didn't have to do that would have depleted our food. So we were actually or depleted ours physically. So we were ahead of the ball game. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the miles we had to do moving forward were much less than what we had to do if we had stayed on our permit. But then the last day, we actually skipped over an entire day of what we had on our permit to be able to get out because the water situation was such that we couldn't have been out there another night and had enough water to be on permit for camping the last night. So we actually pulled a 20-mile day to get out of the canyon because there was essentially like a 30-mile stretch of no water. And if we would have added a night, A, we didn't have enough food for that, and B, we didn't have enough water to make it through an entire day following that last water source we came across, which is its own story in and of itself that was very difficult and very exhausting. And it was essentially the last part of our hike minus the rim to rim that at the time we did not know was going to be the last part of our hike.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say we should wrap up the interview with the Instagram questions, but it actually looks like we covered the majority of these. So is there anything else you want to convey about the Hayduke, or you're still on for the rest of the show? But Hayduke wise, is there anything else you want to say?
I mean, I can't think of anything really other than, if you're planning to do the Hayduke in the future, ask somebody who's been on it. Ask somebody who's been on it about what to expect, when you should start, what kind of gear you should use, how heavy or light it should be. Like, do I need this, that, or this? Like, don't just be like, oh, this is another through hike and I'm planning to do it. Like, I would say do your best to prep everything that you might need to know or might want to use on that kind of a hike, because mitigating problems before you get out there, mitigating logistical considerations before you get out there can really make you a lot more successful. And also, it might make sense to wait to submit your permits for the Grand Canyon until you're a little closer to the Grand Canyon itself, to kind of ensure that you have a better chance of getting through the Grand Canyon with heat and water situations. It'll save you some hassles because it wasn't the smart way for us to do it. I would have been able to hike a lot faster and cover more miles if I wasn't slowing down intentionally to be on pace to start the Grand Canyon permit on the date that we, in 2 months prior to made the permits for, Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Cool.
Do you have any other questions?
No, I liked that story as the ending point.
Yeah,
It was nice.
totally agreed. Sweet. Segments.
don't avoid the rafters.
No.
By the way, that's the take home I think from that story is like
Take their beer and their spaghetti.
Make friends.
Yeah.
Make friends.
Yeah, that's a good life lesson in general. Trek propaganda. I've got a couple of articles we're going to move through very quickly by design. The first is the 100-mile wilderness designated as an international dark sky park. This one's by Tina
cool.
Mullen, former Trek editorial intern, now writer. Obviously, you get what that is through the title. You might not know what a international dark sky park is. I did not. And that is a land possessing an exceptional or distinguished quality of starry nights and a nocturnal environment that is specifically protected for its scientific, natural, educational, cultural heritage, and or public enjoyment. So, 100-mile wilderness is
That's
now
awesome.
officially that. Yeah.
I didn't even know those were things.
Yeah, same. So, 100-mile wilderness. There you go. This one is hard for me to read. It's so upsetting, but it's news, and we're going to talk about it.
When did this happen?
This was like 2 days ago.
Oh, wow. I haven't seen anything about it.
So I'm not going to go into details of the story. The title gives it all away, but man and 2-year-old son found dead on Maryland AT in apparent murder-suicide. This is by Trek's editor, lead writer, Kelly Floro. Like I said, not going to go into details, too depressing to bring up. But I bring the story up just to reiterate, if you or anyone you know is going through emotional distress, please reach out to somebody. Call 1-800-273-TALK or 1-800-273-8255. Go to mentalhealth.gov/get-help/immediate-help or do something. This story obviously will break the heart of any parent or human being. What a terrible segue. This is the triple crown of mundane things that ruin your day. So the emphasis is mundane things. This can't, like the previous story is obviously in a totally different ballpark. This is like the small things that, shouldn't fuck up your day, but they do.
Out of coffee.
Okay, Jabba's going first. That's a good one. I like that one. Yeah, if you can't start your day with caffeine, I just am a bag of dicks until I have any caffeine in my system.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm going to be the president.
Hey, bag of dicks. President bag of dicks, sir.
Do you want to go second?
Sure. I'll do locking your keys in your car.
Ooh,
Day
that actually
ruined.
Special did that
Time
last
consuming.
night.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we can just group car troubles, I'd say,
Yeah.
with all that. Because, like, battery dead, we left the lights
Yeah.
on, all
Sure.
that kind of shit.
Yeah, Special locked his
Yeah.
keys in his truck
Yeah.
last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Idiot. Tim, if you're listening, God, you're dumb.
I'm going to go with, this is actually very similar, I think, to what Jabba said, but worse for me, is not getting enough sleep. Legitimately
yeah.
ruins my entire day. I'm cranky to be around. I function poorly at work. I do everything poorly.
I've seen it.
Yeah, I'm a bad person when I get a bad night's sleep. The first 6 weeks, 8 weeks of having a kid was very touch and go for old ZD, especially when you only took like 10 days of paternity. So yeah, that was a tough one. Snake draft coming back my way. I'm gonna go with this. Will kind of go with a conversation we were having before we hit the record button. Is preparing your taxes. And for me, that's not a day ruiner. That's like a 2 to 3 day ruiner. Because, well, it's honestly probably like a 2-week ruiner because it takes me a week and a half of just like it being the top item on my to-do list and just not doing it. But it is
So not doing your taxes or just having to do your taxes, is that what you're saying?
preparing. So I don't actually like put together the tax forms. I'm not like running it through TurboTax or
Yeah,
whatever.
sure,
But I have to get all the financials together for
'cause
my
your business.
CPA.
Yeah, gotcha.
And it is just the most boring, tiresome, laborious.
Well, let me ask you a question though. When it comes to taxes, would you ever use like, the fact that I have to do my taxes? Would you ever use that as an excuse to not get the vaccine?
That's not an excuse. I'm just listing the things that are on my to-do list.
Oh man! Before we hit record
You
on
guys.
the, Chaunce is like, like I asked her, I was like, have you gotten the vaccine yet? And she's like, no. She's like, I still gotta do my taxes. Like, what the fuck are you
Let
talking
me
about?
elaborate on this a bit. So I have very few free nights in the week. I'm here 1 to 2 nights during the week. I have the Mile by Mile podcast stuff at least one other night of the week. And so it's like, then when I get out of work, a lot of places are closed. So
Would your work not let you take an hour?
No, they would, but it's a weekly commission structure. So if I fuck up,
oh man, this is a anti-vaxxer story of the year.
Yeah. But how much work would you miss if you got
pissed right
if
now?
you got COVID?
Everyone's gonna think I am an
I
anti-vaxxer.
know that's the best part.
I mean, there's at least 2 people here that think you are.
Guys, I would like to get this vaccine. I'm just very bad at managing my own life, and it's on my list.
What were you doing last night?
Not managing my life. Not managing my life.
Anyways, enough roasting Chaunce. Sorry, Chaunce.
I had to fit that in. The fact that you said taxes, I was like, oh, yes.
I thought that was why you said it, and I was like, you guys are freaking...
It was legitimately on my list.
Okay. My next one is when you like go get a meal somewhere and you're really excited about what you ordered and then it just like falls short of expectations. Like you're really excited about this thing you order and then it just doesn't taste that great.
Sure.
What about? Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Chaunce and I have boned out about the wings at Mountain Sun. Their property of restaurants.
Boned out.
Boned up. Boned out. You know,
boned in.
Bone in wings. The last time I went there, they were kind of crappy.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that.
I don't know.
Say no more.
It was Southern Sun. They had recently opened up after a long time off during COVID. So maybe they're just getting their stuff back together. I don't know what happened, but like it was undercooked on the inside. The outside was soggy. It was just like, if that was my first experience, I would never get them again.
Did it ruin your day?
No.
Oh. Fuck me then.
So here's one that I wouldn't say this happens to me often. It certainly can happen. And I'm going to group these two things in as one. But like, if your hot water's out, all right, you're not going to get a great shower. Or if your power is out,
Yeah.
come on,
Yeah.
Right?
Especially
AC
nowadays. It's
Right.
like, do I have to read now? I don't know how to do that.
What am I going to do with myself?
My AC was out for about
That's
3 weeks.
Yeah, we'll group that in there too.
3
AC
weeks.
out. Damn.
Yeah.
I'm actually about to go buy an AC unit when I leave here right now.
For like a window one?
The room I have is a peculiar giant sliding windows, and like putting a window unit in there is not really all that easy to do. You have to find like the perfect like vertical. Like, they're just like it's a large room, so a giant BTU perfect vertical air conditioner is heavy, tough to install. You need to put like extra braces on the outside, yada yada. I'm not trying to do that. I just want to get one of those portable ones that has like an exhaust vent or tube that runs out to the through the window.
I think I would rather have the power out than the AC be broken.
I'll agree.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was not fun.
Yeah. Because that leads to my first thing. Like, if the AC's out, I'm not sleeping well, especially when it's fucking hot as hell.
Same. I need circulation of any kind. So the power's out. But if the power's out, then I can't have a fan.
Right.
Kill me. Just kill me.
Yeah. Might as well.
I don't know if I've talked about our downstairs neighbors on air yet. Have I?
You talked about it to me. I think that was off air.
Okay. Well, our downstairs neighbors and us have like we don't like each other.
Wow. What did you do to them?
I don't know. They just like don't like us.
There has to be something.
Well, they get
They're
mad when I
listening.
walk on my treadmill, but I walk on my treadmill at like 7 p.m. at a 4-mile-an-hour pace.
You have a treadmill?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm an indoor cat in the winter.
Wow.
But so with the AC, I was talking to the guy that was coming to like evaluate it and see if they could repair it or like what the deal was. And he was like, yeah, I mean, the reason it's broken is because there's a giant brick on top of it. And I was like, what giant brick on top of it? And he was like, well, it rattles. So I assume someone didn't like the noise of the rattling. So they put a giant brick, like a sidewalk brick, on top of it to stop it from rattling and completely blocked off the fan. The whole thing froze up. And
this is your down. You think the downstairs people did this?
it's their bedroom window that it's right next to.
Oh.
And there's no other tenants that are near. It's a corner unit.
So
ipso facto,
yeah.
probably was. No confirmation on it, but
Well,
the
this is war.
second he said that, we were like, oh.
Was it broken? And so you had to get a new one?
Yeah, that's why it took 3 weeks.
Did you ever ask them?
Elliot did. My housemate, Ballflap, went downstairs.
And did they lie?
And they were like, we have no idea what you're talking about. And he was like, I
they
know that's
lied.
not true.
And you said that he was typically like the calm mind in the situation.
Yes.
He lost it.
He's the calm, collected, sensible one. And I was at my desk working, and I hear him go,
Did his ball get the flapping?
He goes, who the fuck puts a
And that's
brick
just
on
what he'll
this?
do.
tossed the
These
brick.
balls will get to flapping, and that's just what they'll do.
We had
One
a
of
funny
these days-
conversation
I'm gonna keep
today,
singing.
though. Today she was crocheting outside, and I was like, oh my God, I crochet. And like chatting with her about like what we crochet. And then she was like, where's your dog? And I was like, it's at my friend's house. And she was like, oh, where's your friend live? And I was like, oh, over by like Wash Park. And she was like, oh, that's a lovely area. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, you should move there.
Oh.
Immediately.
I was like, I wish.
Take
and then
your
I
air
like
conditioner
left.
with you ginger bitch.
Well,
Is
it
that
made
what you
me
said?
laugh because it was like this like kind conversation that just ends with our like reminder that we
Yeah.
mutually don't like each other.
Yeah, you should fuck off and move there.
She asked that after Christmas too. She was like, oh, where'd you go? And I was like, home for Christmas.
I mean,
and
they're
she's like,
gonna
I thought you moved out. And I was like, no.
Listen, those people are the kind of people that'll be a dickhead neighbor to anyone who's living next to them or above them.
Well,
you know?
it's a family. Like it's a
Don't
husband
live
and
in an
wife
apartment
from
then.
Russia, and they have a son in high school, and that's Elliot's thought point. But my idea of it is they feel like it's their house.
Right.
And they are disappointed that there's any noise going on upstairs whatsoever.
Honestly, like no offense, but like that's the game of having an apartment around people above, below, beside. Like that's why I don't want to have an apartment.
Yeah, it's a numbers game. It's the
Yeah.
odds are you're
Yeah.
gonna have someone shitty. It's just a matter of how far away.
It's
that shitty
unfortunate if
person
that
is.
has to be your circumstance. I get it. Maybe that's like the only price range they can like get into or whatever.
I think it's kind of cute how it's turned to, because
Yeah.
we're having like nice conversations when we see each
And
other,
they
and
ask
then
you to
it's just
move.
like a little reminder
Yeah.
there. But I think it's kind of fun.
Our last apartment, our immediate next door neighbor had like a ruby-sized dog that just barked all day long. They were out at work, and I think they crated it. I don't know what happened, but like
Always in-
probably 40 times an hour, every hour, all day long. It's just like background noise, but sort of like it stabbed you in the ear.
So
And you
I
guys only
think,
lived there for like a year, right?
And I was on the PCT for half
Right,
of it, so
yeah.
it was mostly a Jenna thing.
Yeah.
I think this is like a good example of karma. It makes me really happy inside. It shouldn't. But they placed a noise complaint for us last summer because they said they didn't like the dog barking. And Harper doesn't bark ever when I'm around. Like she'll bark one time if someone's at the door. And so it's like she'll bark when she's in her crate because she's a puppy, but I never leave her at home alone. Like one night a week when I go to Backpacker Radio, I'll leave her in the crate alone. So it's like, how often did you deal with this, that you
Right.
placed a noise complaint? But the thing that makes me really happy inside is that the neighbors across from them moved out, and they have like 3 of the yappiest chihuahuas that go nonstop all day. I can hear it from my place, and it just makes me so happy.
We still have a third Triple Crown here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Who
Don't
did the
leave it
last
to
one?
me to keep us on track.
Yeah. Who did the last one?
You, because we're still talking about your bullshit.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you, because you said power off or...
Oh.
And then we got in the AC tangent.
True.
So you,
True.
but snake drafts would go again.
I think it's you start now
It's got to be your bull.
because I
Sure,
started.
I'll just-
I started initially.
Okay. One more thing that's small and mundane that will ruin your day. Let's see.
Okay, fine. I'll go.
Okay, go on.
Oh, you want me to go?
Yeah, go.
Okay. I was gonna say if I poop 5 times before breakfast.
Okay, why does that ruin your day?
It doesn't. I love it.
You sent that text, and I was like, why does this ruin your day?
Well, I mean, if it's literally like, like, oops, I crapped my pants.
Yeah.
Like, if it's like that, that's gonna be a long day.
I'm
A
gonna,
long day.
That's a real thing too. He's not exaggerating.
Yeah. I'm actually gonna get like a study done, see if I have like celiac and shit like that. So
nice.
we'll see.
Is that a real thing?
I mean, I definitely need to check out something about my digestive tract to make sure that I don't have like a bad thing going on that would change the course of the rest of my life.
We took Chaunce's next one.
Yeah. Why is that bad?
My last one is going to be
All right, Zach,
when you
go.
can't find something. Like, just like you need something, and like it's usually always in one place, like usually like a charger cord for
yeah,
a
I was gonna say,
special camera.
how about the phone? Like, if you lose your phone, I can't find my phone.
That doesn't happen too often for me.
No,
No,
but that would ruin your day, right? Like, I need this phone for the rest of the things I'm doing
You can't change
today.
my answer.
I just did.
My
Like,
answer is losing something like a cord or like.
the cord's gonna ruin your day, but a phone won't.
For me,
Well,
like
I don't lose it. I don't really
if
find
I'm
that
running
trouble.
late for something, I can never find my car keys. Like I always put my car keys in the same
dude,
spot.
you are. This is something that happens to you all the time.
Yeah.
You lose things a lot.
I do lose things a lot. It's part of my ADHD. It's just like I
Yeah.
don't have a system for things, so
Yeah.
like I'm juggling 30 things
You
at
know,
once.
it's funny for somebody who like. I think you do have a system for a lot of other things. I think for when it comes to the placing of like items in your life, that you don't have a system down for.
I have a shit ton of spreadsheets and
Yeah,
lists and stuff like
yeah.
that, because if I don't do that, my life is chaos.
Yeah.
And like I'm mentally, these things are just circulating in my head at all times.
I would think out of like pure necessity, you would have at this point in life figured out how to have a system for those types of things. Wallet, keys, phone.
I would say
watch.
90% of the time I know exactly where my keys are. Like I have a hook for them, but sometimes I come in like I have to piss so bad it's like my system's broken off.
Yeah.
And then they stay in my shorts, and then the shorts get buried
Or you
in the
put them
laundry
under a
pile.
magazine, or
yeah,
like,
it gets somewhere. Ruby eats it. Who knows? But that happens to me a lot.
I feel like I've witnessed those chaotic moments for you. Like, oh God, where did I put this? Oh fuck my life.
Yeah, it's part of my DNA.
Yeah, big time.
This one you will be able to relate to. I've gotten better on this over the years. It definitely was more of like a middle school, high school thing. But when your team loses in the playoffs or like a huge game, that's a day ruiner. Like, how did you feel after the Bills?
I was very upset.
Yeah.
I was not happy.
Yeah.
Also watched the Avs game. They lost. They're out.
Yeah,
That was Thursday.
I read that they were the more likely to win in the escapades than in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Or the Icecapades. I say the Icecapades. That's what a headline I read like today about the Avalanche.
What are the Icecapades?
It's just a joke to say that they're pretty. They're pretty on paper, but they didn't have the chops to. They like dominated a lot of this year, but they didn't have the chops to win in the playoffs. So they're just like making fun of them for like not being structured well enough to be a playoff team.
So the
That sucks. By the way, for side note, I apologize. The Avalanche are the first team that I fell in love with in the NHL, and
Patrick Waugh,
Joe Sakic, Peter Forsberg, Claude Lemieux, Rob Blake.
Wow, that's an impressive recall.
Oh
right
man,
there.
Adam Foote. I mean, and then what's his face from the Boston Bruins came on. I can't even remember his name. He was like his like it's like when Peyton Manning came to the Denver Broncos and won a Super Bowl. Like that's like
Lemieux,
No. God, not
the
Lemieux.
knuckle puck.
No, I can't. Bork. Ray Bork? No, that's not. Anyways, a Hall of Famer for his last season went to Colorado. They won a Stanley Cup with him, and yeah, man, they were just like studs back then. It was awesome, and I had like EA Sports NHL '96, always played with them, and then like I actually started going to NHL playoff games back then before the lockout happened, which changed.
Before it was cool.
Well, the lockout changed things for the fans quite a bit. Like they felt betrayed, and NHL changed the landscape quite a bit because of that. Anyways, go ahead.
This show's running long.
Yeah.
Leah's legs just gave out, so
Yeah.
we're gonna jump to the mailbag.
Do my episodes ever not run long?
No, and it doesn't help that we started 40 minutes late either.
Yeah.
Let's go. This was a mailbag from Angie Strotman. Hi, BPR. I am a crazy chicken lady. What a way to lead this one. As such, I know the answer to your question about eggs being kept on the counter versus in the fridge. We actually got a couple emails about this. When an egg when an egg is first laid, it has an invisible layer on the outside called the bloom. The bloom protects the otherwise porous eggshell from any bacteria getting inside. With the bloom intact, an egg can remain unrefrigerated safely. As soon as the egg is washed or sanitized in any way, the bloom is removed, and the eggs must be kept refrigerated to protect them from the bacteria growth that they are now exposed to.
Because the shell is porous.
Yeah.
From that perspective.
Store-bought eggs in North America have been sanitized and thus must be kept in the fridge. In Europe, it is more common to have fresh, unwashed eggs that can be safely kept on the counter. Bonus fact, chickens lay the same color of egg as their earlobes, i.e. brown ear, brown egg, blue egg. Hope you enjoy these facts. Love your show, Angie.
I
do
enjoyed
love
them.
those
Chicken
facts.
facts.
Yeah,
Those are great.
Those are great facts.
I had a lot of eggs this
Yeah.
morning.
What kind of chickens have blue ears?
Well, did she mean chickens or just all birds in general?
No, she said chickens.
Chickens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Neat.
I feel like I have seen, it's not like bright blue eggs. It's not like an Easter egg, but like dull blue, like a grayish blue.
Are robin eggs blue? Are those
Well,
ones,
yes,
those little
they
blue
are.
ones?
Yeah.
Are
That's not a
robins
chicken. Yeah, that's why I
Where
was.
are their ears?
They're probably
On
does
their
not,
head, I think.
I would imagine it doesn't equate the same thing to robins as chickens.
Yeah.
In terms of the color of the egg and the color of the ear.
I'm trying to think about even like where a chicken's ear would be.
It's like just a hole, I think.
So you
I don't
gotta
think
like.
they have.
look in
I don't
it.
think they have like dog type ears.
No.
You know, they like just have like a hole. But I bet in that hole, like where the feathers kind of sort of mask or cover that hole. I bet. Here we go. Here we go.
Chicken ears.
Yeah.
I don't see them. Hold on, let me put my glasses on.
Yeah. I mean, this is now boring to any listener. But,
Yeah.
Whoa.
This is why I go to TikTok.
It's
Yeah.
like right next to its-
Instagram.net/TikTok.
Oh
Wait,
my
what?
God. It's not where you think it would be. It's like on their jaw.
Yeah, it's like at the back of their jaw.
That is weird.
That is strange.
I mean, if you like follow our jaw up, that's where our ears are too. It's just
Yeah,
that
but
their
theirs is like-
the construction of their skull and their head is different.
Oh, chickens.
Fucking beaks.
Do you want to take the review?
Sure. SB Hikes says good long interviews. The interviews are very long, so you really get an in-depth discussion.
Perfectly on point for
I
today.
especially
Nailed.
enjoyed the interviews with Cindy Ross and Miss Janet. Both these amazing women make you look at ways of living and experiencing things from new perspectives. I tend to listen to the podcast while on solo backpack trips, so it feels like hanging out with nutty hiker friends.
That was a Cindy Ross mention.
Yeah.
Cindy.
Did you see her book came out?
She sent me a signed copy and like a framed picture of her son's illustration of me. It's in Pennsylvania.
Cindy's amazing.
Yeah, she is.
She's a very authentic personality.
I'm very fortunate enough to have met her as the very first trail personality I've ever met.
Yeah.
Before I ever through hiking anything. The
Wow.
week I spent my 30th birthday with her. She made me a 30th birthday cake, and then the next week I started the AT for the first time.
Wow.
I know her because of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you to our title sponsor, Onyx Backcountry.
Oh!
I'm actually going to pass this one over to Jabba.
Sure.
Just give us like 15 seconds about what you like about the app.
Well, they have their own proprietary
Disclaimer, Jabba is also a sponsored
Yeah,
athlete.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. And it's been great working with them for the last. We have worked together since about a week before I hit the Hayduke, and I've been. This is about like project based sponsor, but I think we're going to be working together a little bit more beyond when I wrap up all my Hayduke post hiking kind of stuff. But basically, I use them for my navigation. I use the app for my backcountry navigation along with my not paper maps. And but yeah, so basically, I tracked the entire route that I was on with Onyx, and what was really cool about it, they have all these like trails that are like pre-loaded that are like I was able to find other alternates to hikes to parts of the route I'd already done, and I was able to be like, oh, there's a different variation I can go do because I see this hike that's outlined like highlighted in blue, or basically all their trails that are on their maps are color coded in like the difficulty of like steepness. So like if it's pretty flat, it's green. If it's like less flat, it's like light green, and then it's yellow and orange and red and dark red. And so you can see, even without knowing what the trail has to offer you, you can know how difficult it is just by looking at it. Like you have a quick visual representation of what the trail holds. So I was like able to see, oh, I can go do this. It's not too terrible without having any beta going into it, you know. Another thing they have, which is actually fucking amazing, is they have a 3-dimensional map. And I mean, like, this is a legitimate 3-dimensional map that like photo quality, like satellite imagery, like next level. And this is a very young app. Like the core of the app is based off of the foundation from their hunting app, Onyx Hunt, which is like the #1 hunting app.
By a lot.
By a lot. And so they are now pivoting and having this other branch of their products in the Onyx Backcountry app. I actually just posted about it today. You can actually pick up the app for $10 for the rest of this month. I don't know when you're posting this.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Keep going.
Annual membership of $10.
That's a steal.
That is a steal. And all the net proceeds from your $10 go directly to Leave No Trace.
Yep.
Directly to them. So because this is Great Outdoors Month?
Yeah.
And so that's like a little gift they're giving you, and a gift they're giving Leave No Trace to allow you to help Leave No Trace and also have a great backcountry tool. Now, like I was saying, it's a very young app. So they are continuously working extremely hard to update the app with new features, new tools, and I'm working directly with them and making sure that they provide a lot of great new tools to to make my job better in the backcountry.
Yeah.
So, if you do get it this month, be aware that they're working towards making the app be a more fully featured app, and there's a lot of new features and tools that will be coming out in the coming weeks and months, and let's not discount the fact that all of last year was COVID. These guys released this app on the heels and in the middle of COVID, essentially, and these people haven't even worked together in the same place. Everybody's been remote. Next week they're getting together, the whole damn team. I think it's 45 people are getting together to really hammer out a lot of the ins and outs of how to continue to make the app better. So
Yeah.
That's really exciting for me as a user and me as somebody who has a say in how the app is going to end up looking in the future.
There's only so much you can do remotely. These podcasts are always 1,000 times more fun, and that translates, I think.
So the point is, your $10, that value is only going to be increasing as they continue to update the app in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, they have a huge, I don't know if cartographer is the right expression for it, but they have a lot of people on their team that work on their own proprietary maps, which is unlike the other GPS maps, to the best of my knowledge. I think they use other maps overlaid on their system.
Right.
So, yeah, good tool. Thank you. That was a very powerful 15-second rundown.
Great testimonial, huh?
Great.
Yeah,
You did a lot in that 15 seconds.
Yeah,
sure.
Thanks. I can't even count.
Thank you to our Chuck Norris Award winners on Patreon. That's Andrew, Austin McDaniel, Christopher Marshburn, Janelle L., Paul Packman-Seeley, S11N, Sawyer Products, Brad and Blair from 13 Adventures, Cameron Brown, and Brent Stenberg. You can follow us on social at Backpacker Radio on Instagram, at Backpacker Radio on TikTok, at Backpacker Pod on Twitter, Facebook.com/Backpacker Radio. You can follow Jabba.
That's me. On
You get to do your own thing.
the internet. No, you can follow me on Instagram at The Real Hiking Viking. You can follow me on Twitter at A Hiking Viking. And you can follow me on Facebook as The Real Hiking Viking. Or you can go to my webpage, which is therealhikingviking.com. And that webpage, I haven't really posted anything in many years. So good luck. But if you want to read some crazy accounts of some of my previous hikes, I journaled extensively on a bunch of hikes, and there's a lot of that in the backlogs archives there. So go have fun if you can read.
You can follow Chaunce.
On Instagram at Juliana_Chauncey. You can get my book Hiking from Home, a long distance hiking guide for family and friends on Amazon. And that's all I really care about.
Cool. Thank you so much for listening, and happy hiking.
And thanks for having me back, guys.
Hey, man.
And girls.
Good to have you.
Bye.
Bye.